Welcome to the Kick-Ass Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are here tonight to review AEW Full Gear for 2022. Before we get into the card, we have a very special guest, the one and only Elvis Escobar from Enter the Lab. Elvis, what is up, my dude?
Ashley, it's always a great time to have me on and to be a part of the Kick-Ass Podcast. This is the second time I'm on, and I feel like it's going to be better than ever because we did the first time we did WWE. Now we're able to do AEW, which I've learned through you. So it's been a great experience, and I'm excited to review Full Gear and everything that you have to ask me, and really get into it. And I'm excited because a lot of time has passed since our last time, my last time being on your podcast, and I got to get you on Enter the Lab very soon.
That would be sick. And speaking of Into the Lab, that's first and foremost before we get into the wrestling world, AEW, all that good stuff. Into the Lab. If you guys are not watching and listening to Into the Lab, you can stop right now. I won't even be offended. Stop right now. Go check it out. Like I've said in the past, and full disclosure, guys, maybe I didn't tell Elvis I was going to mention this, but we just did about 8 minutes, and I realized I never hit record, so we're redoing this real quick. But like I said, that you guys didn't hear, I am a very visual person, so I love checking out the YouTube channel of Into the Lab. Elvis and Fort do a fantastic job, but you can check it out on podcasts, of course, pretty much anywhere you get podcasts, I'm sure, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. But definitely check it out on YouTube, subscribe, all that good stuff. Elvis, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can plug away and get all the proper ads and handles and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, Enter the Lab, myself, Elvis Escobar, the better half of me, Fort Sama. We're kind of like a no niche podcast where we cover it all. We cover sports. We cover, sometimes I do my own wrestling segments. We do entertainment news, what's going on with Twitter and Elon Musk. We'll hit up presidential topics and get into a little politics, a little bit for everybody, and we timestamp it all. So, if we do an 45, an hour and 15 podcast, so if it's not your entertainment to listen to a full hour or so for us, we timestamp it all in the info so you can listen to what you want to get into. And then we have a new episode coming out on Monday night, episode 50. We've been going on for a year, so we did 50 episodes in under a year. That means we put out an episode every single week for the last 50 weeks. We take pride in that being consistent. And now we're going to do a new segment called Lab Talk, where you could email, DM us, and let us know either questions or things that you want us to talk about. Our podcast is growing bigger than ever on YouTube for sure. We have great interviews which spans soccer players, CEOs of liquor companies, which we're unofficially sponsored by Billionaires Row, yes, which we're trying to get sponsored by them. We have connections, and it goes to whatever social media people and everything. So check us out, Enter the Lab. I won't spend too much on it because I hate to do a lengthy plug when I'm on somebody else's podcast, but got the hat, got the background, Enter the Lab. It's a great time, and I appreciate you for having me on and us on to represent. But also, I'm so excited to talk wrestling because I watch about 10 to 12 hours of wrestling per week, and I know you do too. So let's get into it.
Yes. No, thank you for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it. And again, guys, check out Enter the Lab. The dynamic between Elvis and Fort, I love, and that's why I say check out the YouTube because you can just connect with them more. So definitely check them out. And like I said, you can even stop now and go check them out. But we will get right into the wrestling of it all now. Of course, we're going to get into Full Gear. What we were discussing when I realized that we weren't actually recording, so listeners can hear. I had asked you just to kind of give just a brief backstory of your wrestling history, and specifically with AEW as well, like when you kind of dove into the AEW world, how long you've kind of been on the bandwagon, so to speak, and especially your feelings lately within the past, I would say maybe 6 months or so. You can go back farther if you like, but especially covering the brawl out after All
Yeah,
Out.
I
To
know
see
you
them.
love it.
Yeah, I do. It's corny, but I love it. You know, it's the stuff we live for. But yeah, so just kind of dive in there.
Yeah, so I'm 33 years old. I started watching wrestling when I was probably 7 years old, playing video games, going over my neighbor's house. I talked a little bit about it when I was on the last podcast, but you can't assume that the same people that listen to that episode is listening to this episode. So, um, Attitude Era, all the early 2000s, and like everybody else, when they grow up and they get into different things when they're in their early teens, they start to branch off from wrestling and go into other relations, other values and moving along and getting into sports or girls or boys, whatever you so choose. And then I took a time off. I would say I took like 15 years off, and the 15 years I took off was literally in the John Cena era. I think from when John Cena came about in 2002, 2003, I stopped watching wrestling. And then when I started watching wrestling again was after he had already been mainstream.
Yeah.
So yeah, right? Isn't that crazy? So my era of not watching wrestling was the John Cena era. But I always kind of followed. I kind of knew about it, pop culture, always been in tune in hip hop and what he was doing. So WWE had a great thing that they were working with, where somebody like me that was involved before John Cena still knew who he was and what was going on throughout. And then I started, I saw a commercial one time in, I think it was 2015, 2016, and started watching in the new year, and there it goes. And got addicted. AJ Styles was the first, AJ Styles, that WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, when he came out, that was like the first pay per view I seen when I started rewatching wrestling, and I loved it ever since. Again, and I slowly crept up to it. Slowly, kind of. It's one of those things where when you're a grown adult in their late 20s, you kind of have that insecurity of like, oh, I watch wrestling, and you don't want to tell your friends, but then you
Mhm.
grow so much confident in it, and I've grown to love the business aspect of it, and you get to know and appreciate again the everything that goes into it. So I have zero shame, and nobody should have shame, whether you're 10, 15, 30, 40 years old, because there's so much that goes into it. Just as much I watch sports every single day, that goes into the sports entertainment or the athlete of the wrestler. That, man, it's a tough business. So I try to tell all my friends that come over to the lab, when we watch TV, I try to get them to show wrestling, because it's something that I have pride in from a little kid, and there's something that everybody should take away from. So, started watching wrestling. I would say, WWE, WWF was the most of my childhood, and then AEW came out about 2 years ago, and started watching that. I was late to it. Started following you. Started listening to you on podcast form, and I was like, all right, let me check out this AEW. Let's see what it's about. And it really is a totally different dynamic than WWE at the time. Now it's gotten a lot closer to that. It was, you can't see me on screen, it was a lot further away from wrestling and promotions and production standpoint. Now it's gotten a lot closer. Triple H is to give a shout out to in the last 6 months or 3 months, whatever it is, and AEW is trying to hit a different, older crowd. AEW has been a great part of my life on those Wednesday nights, now Friday nights, and it's given me a different segue, and I love it. From MJF to John Moxley to the blood and the gore and the hardcoreness of it. And I'm excited to talk Full Gear with you on this episode. So
Yeah, man.
that's my background of it, and I'm new to it. So if I don't accurately say a name or a situation, feel free to call myself or Ashley out and DM us,
Yeah.
because I want to learn about it, but I feel like I know a good amount to what I've watched over the last 2 years of AEW.
Yeah, for sure. And I likewise, I feel any feedback is good feedback when it comes to stuff like this that we do. So I always welcome it as well. But I wanted to see specifically because, and not to keep like beating a dead horse or whatever in the wrestling world, but specifically because right now it kind of transitions into, especially obviously the main event that we saw here tonight with Full Gear, but the return of the Elite as well, which is one of the matches that we'll be getting to. But we'll just get it out of the way now, the CM Punk of everything. And first, what your initial thoughts and feelings were from the media scrum? Did you go back and actually watch the scrum itself? Did you just hear about it? What you think of the Elite specifically coming back and CM Punk seemingly on the outs? Do you believe, and this is the hot take of it all, do you believe that Kenny Omega was truly bit? And do you think it was by Ace Steel or Larry the Dog? And do you think Larry was really actually slammed by the Elite by the door? Everything, dude. So wherever you want to start, dive in.
I like how you did like Pat. I know myself and you love Pat McAfee, and that's how Pat McAfee asks questions. He'll do like 15 questions, like how do you feel about this, and then that, and then it's like the interviewee has to go back and be like, all right, which question do I answer first? So I'll go back where it's like CM Punk was not in my era watching, but when I watch back on CM Punk in the WWE era, man, he was everything you want in wrestling as a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old.
Right there. I didn't realize that you didn't watch CM Punk in WWE.
No, didn't watch it at all.
Okay.
That's why I almost love.
Thinking about the time frame. Yeah, I never put. Wow, damn. Okay.
Yeah, it was literally 2002 to 2015, so after 13 years. But that's what made me go back and watch it. So they have at the time, not Peacock, on the WWE network, they had a documentary on CM Punk. So about 3 years ago, I watched it just to get to know him a little bit, watch the pipe bomb and all that. And before he came to AEW, I loved him. He's who I am in the workplace, and that's kind of why I got, I'm in sales, and I'm an entrepreneur by nature since 22, and I've been figuring it out since, and he's everything I embody, being a little bit, against the grain. But guess what? I'll admit it. Being against the grain is cool until it's not cool, until you're a problem, and then they got to move on from you. So, like the company I was with for the last, previous to 2 years ago, I was with them for 5 years doing sales. It's all good when you're putting new ideas in. You're new, you're fresh, you're giving a different spin. But guess what? That gets old real quick when you're constantly doing this. Mm-hmm. That's what CM Punk was, and that's what makes him great. But that's what makes him toxic. Is what makes him great is he's gonna speak up. He's gonna do what he wants, and that's what you want. You watch UFC. You love the Conor McGregors. You love boxing. You love the Mayweathers. Just they're their own entity. They're their own company. But that gets old really quick when you're trying to put together something new, something fresh, something as a team. They're not team players. As good as they are, Mayweather, CM Punk, all these great characters that we love on screen. And whether it's a different promotion or a genre of entertainment, they're problematic, and that's what we've seen with CM Punk. We seen somebody that could come in and he got the biggest pop ever, right? Probably in wrestling.
I'll never forget that night, man.
You were there, right?
Yeah,
you got the ice cream bar and all.
Fuck yeah, dude. I got 2 of them bitches.
Hell yeah! You still got one of them in the freezer?
No, because I knew it wouldn't last on my flight, right? So
yeah, gotcha.
And had I knew the fucking wrappers were going for like $150 on eBay,
you didn't keep the wrapper either.
I kept one of them, for myself.
Of course.
But I threw the other one away. But I want to keep that. And now they're probably not worth shit. But the first week or so, those things were selling like crazy. I was like, that's insane. But yeah,
that was everywhere. That was everywhere in pop culture on Twitter. Like there was Twitter accounts that don't even tweet about wrestling that were tweeting about CM Punk's return, and that was cool and that was great. And obviously, a year came by after that, a year plus, but guess what? You knew the time was gonna come where a dynamic in whether it had to do with money or contract or other wrestlers having a situation where they didn't feel like he should be on top, and you saw the true colors. So overall, not for me to rant on it, and I respect CM Punk. I love everything he's done for wrestling, but he's a short term situation, and now you're seeing the ramifications of what could happen after. I think Tony Khan made a good decision of bringing him on, but in a year plus, you've seen what happens in the ugly part of it, and that's what we all knew once the honeymoon stage went past. It was he's a problem. He's gonna say whatever he wants. He's gonna do whatever he wants. He's gonna always play the victim. I have many friends in my life that play the victim, and it's never good. They're great people. They're awesome. They bring a lot to your life, but CM Punk tends to play as if he's the victim of every situation, and some of the times it's true, but he's not a team player. He's a Kobe Bryant times 10. Kobe Bryant's great, but if Kobe Bryant's not winning championships, he seems like a very bad teammate. And last time I was on the podcast, I tried to make correlations to sports, and that's the best way I could put it. If Kobe Bryant wasn't winning, he'd be a very bad teammate, and that's what CM Punk is.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, Kobe Bryant is. When I was 6, I was on a soccer team, and one of our little. This is what my sidebars. One of our little photo packages that, of course, my grandparents had to purchase because whatever, spend wasted money, right? It was like a little sports card, right? So it'd be your picture on the front, and then like your stats on the back, like just bullshit. And it asked your favorite athlete, and I put like on my paper, I put Kobe Bryant. And they're like, no, you have to put a soccer athlete. And I was like, well, it just says favorite athlete, so Kobe's my favorite. And they're like, no, you should put Kobe. And I just remember thinking, like, and I'm not like a combative person, like in general, but I just remember being so flabbergasted, like I'm putting Kobe on there. So hearing you bring Kobe up as a comparison, I totally get it, but it's just funny because like Kobe, like you're so right, like as great as a player Kobe is, and one of the all-time greats, one of the GOATs, right? And depending on who you ask, potentially the GOAT, depends on what era, I think really too comes into that. But you're so right, and I think that's a very good comparison because right when CM Punk was originally signed, there were kind of rumors coming out that like the WWE side of it, like their opinion, quote unquote, on AEW signing CM Punk. Someone had said, quote, or like not officially, but saying something to the effect of good luck, and like it'll be good for now, type of thing, or just wait for it to play out. And it's insane to think that it's only been, like you said, a little over a year. Like debuted or returned August 2021, and this is what, November 2022. So a year and change, and it's wild, dude. It's wild. Do you think, I know you said you agreed with Tony Khan bringing him back. Do you agree with Tony Khan apparently like completely just separating from CM Punk? And obviously, to me, it feels kind of obvious at this point, and there's no official reports or anything, but this is just me making my own speculation off of what we see, especially with the Elite returning tonight. Do you think he made the right decision bringing the Elite back and kind of signing with the Elite and just kind of disbanding with Punk? And do you think Punk ends up in WWE? Do you think he's done with wrestling for good? And then we'll kind of wrap this up and then get into the card.
Of course. I think if you're a business owner or a business in general, I'm going to choose 3 people who have been there since day one over one guy that hasn't been healthy, that's way far past his prime, over the other 3. Like, you got to think. So I got these 3 guys that 2 are a tag team. 1 is a basically elite, not the, pun intended. And then I got this other guy that could wrestle maybe 2 or 3 times a year, bring a buzz, but he's old and he's going to get hurt. It's like, obviously, business-wise, I'm going to choose the 3 over the 1. And I think Tony Khan made a good decision. He made a good decision bringing him in, taking a chance, but then he also has to make a better decision of calling his, it is what it is. Hey, we tried it. We had you in. We hopefully treated you good. You made your money. He didn't do it for free. He did it for many millions, right? and now we move on. And that's what business is. It's, hey, we had a good thing going for a year plus, and we move on. Tony Khan did a great thing. It's not about, in my eyes, it's wrestling business and in business. It's not about the first decision you make, whether to bring somebody on. It's the second decision you make, which is the harder decision, is when to cut ties with somebody. And it's always good to cut ties early than late. And I, like I said, I do this in sports. The New York Yankees, we're in a big year where we have to sign Judge. We have to sign a bunch of people. There's a couple people on our roster that I'm like, damn, I would love for them to be around next year, but I'd rather the Yankees get rid of them this year and them be an all-star next year than to hang on for them one more year and then regret that we have them for the next 3 years. So you have to know, as a business, you always cut ties a year early than a year later, and it's always going to benefit people because you got to look back at the younger talent. You always got to look back at, there's more people that matter in AEW other than CM Punk. CM Punk's great for ratings, for money grab, but you're looking at Jack Perry, you're looking at, all these other people that you're trying to build up. You can't build them up if you have CM Punk choking people out, biting people, like all that. You just can't have that in a locker room. It's not going to benefit.
So wait, so you don't think Larry the dog was actually hit by the board?
He might have been biting at somebody's ankles.
Apparently, a tooth was loosened, and they had to be extracted. Like, it's
Hey,
the whole thing that we
like
didn't know until like a month or so later, mind you.
Like I always say, in a fight, it don't matter what happens. You're in a fight. Whether you have to bite, scratch, and claw, or punch, you're in a fight. You got to figure it out. So maybe Larry the dog got involved. Maybe he didn't. But, man, hey, we'll never know. We'll never truly know. We'll wait for, what is it on Hulu? The Dark Side of the Mat?
Yeah, the Dark Side of the Ring.
Episode. Dark Side of the Ring. That'll be an episode, and we'll all be locked in. I can't wait for that episode.
Oh yeah, give it like a year,
right? Please.
At this rate with social media, but yeah, dude. Okay, so that obviously transitions into the card itself. Anything else you want to talk about AEW, or well, before we get into the card, I do want to get the last question that I have for you. What did you think of the build? What did you think? And maybe your judgment's a little clouded now because we've obviously seen the pay-per-view, but the weeks going into it, especially like the past month, the Dynamite and maybe specifically the recent Dynamite Go Home show. What did you think about that? And do you think they did a good job? And how did you feel going into the Full Gear show?
It's funny. This is the first time I thought about because I watched, because I did get married last week. So, shout out Bree, shout out Bray Day, but I had to get a little caught up this week, and I watched both WWE and AEW. Kind of like, I stop every promo, and on both sides I watch every promo, and then I'll like skip forward to commercials and some matches. But I don't think the buildup was for AEW Full Gear was as good. I even text you 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago. I was like, hey, the Elite's coming back. And I watched all the promos and everything that led up to it. Was it something I missed? I was like, they didn't do anything to show that the Elite was coming back other than, hey, they're back. And I thought that was a missed opportunity. You could have sold a lot of tickets, or you could have got a lot of TV views on Dynamite if they were the last thing that people saw on Dynamite. Or hey, what? Save it for Rampage. You're trying to build up Rampage after SmackDown. Put the Elite on Rampage.
Rampage was live.
Let's be honest. Put the Elite on for the last 30 seconds. Just show them. Walk in, show them entrance, and it fade to black. Do you think people would view Rampage more? Oh shit, I gotta go back and watch it, or I gotta tune in. Whatever they didn't do a good job promoting the Elite for this pay-per-view at all. And no excuse in that regard, because you could say like, oh, like there's no excuse for it. You have something that they could have promoted. The only thing they promoted for it was like, hey, they're facing the Death Triangle. Tune in, gonna be great. Oh, like it's like, come on, dude. You could have milked, not because I'm not the fan of milking things out, but when you have gold in your hand, you got to show it. And they didn't do it. And the fact that I had to text you and be like, hey, did I miss something? Because I watched every episode of the last 2 weeks. Did I miss something that happened? That should tell you everything, that they didn't promote that well enough.
I agree with you, and I think it's really telling because the whole groundswell with AEW was the fan support and the fan connection. I don't know if you ever watched ECW, or I'm sure you're
A
familiar
little
with
bit.
it. Or at least know like the concept of it, the idea, like the fan support. The fans were huge. Like the fans, pretty much like I've watched documentaries like Paul Heyman specifically. I said like the fans were as much a part as of ECW, if not more, than the actual than ECW itself. Like they were ECW, and
Mm-hmm.
not maybe not to that extreme. But AEW was kind of in that same vein, especially when I first started. And to think now that it's just kind of, it's just the excitement is there, but it's not at a peak. And I think the past year it's really kind of taken a hit. And I think it's been really telling, especially this morning. I heard a clip. I listened to Busted Open off and on. So I didn't hear the full show on Sirius XM. But they had mentioned that there were still tickets available, and that was actually kind of surprising for me because it was obviously the morning of the show, and normally, especially pay-per-views, because in AEW is pretty good about not having a pay-per-view every month. Obviously, they maybe 4 or 5 now with Forbidden Door a year.
Yeah.
So the hype should be there, and the excitement should be there to go to a pay-per-view. And for me personally, like old friends that I've had who, like you, it loved wrestling back in the Attitude Era days. I was like, dude, you're gonna love AEW. You have to go to a show with me. Like, I'll buy your ticket. Like, you're gonna love it. Like, trust me, you're gonna love it, type thing, And now I'm not saying it's completely gone because I think that would be a dramatic statement, but it's definitely taken a hit. And I think that the excitement for this pay-per-view was kind of telling. And I think, like you said, the lack of promotion for the Elite, and when I first saw the first promo and the kind of fading out of their figures in the segment itself, I thought it was pretty cool. And I was like, okay, so they're taking my perspective, and we'll obviously get into the match itself. And I know we have Dragon Boy and Luchasaurus first before we get into the card, but you bringing up the Elite, I personally loved the first video because I thought it was a cool concept, and I thought they were going with, maybe they're coming back to not fight against AEW, but like, okay, like they're pissed off. They have a chip on their shoulder. Tony Khan, and not specific, because obviously you can't fight Tony Khan, right?
Almost they should go into like an NWO like type vibe where it's like feed off that. Like, I got fired and I'm gonna disrupt the system.
I got suspended for whatever months it was for just for reacting and just being
a lot they could have went into.
Like, my mindset, if I were them, I'm sure I would have been like, you know what, fuck you. Like, like I was doing, like I was reacting. I didn't start this shit, but I was working to finish it, and resolve it, behind the scenes. That out, you know what I mean?
I love that. Yeah, now thinking back, it's like, damn, that's another wasted opportunity. They could have rebelled a little bit.
And to see, and well, I'm hesitant to just kind of stop myself now because I don't want to bypass obviously the opener of the card, but like you said, I think that was a huge missed opportunity, and especially kind of the follow up in what we're going to be getting out of that match. But anything else you want to say about the build before we get into the card itself?
No, other than that, it's I think they missed the opportunity there, and every match that we'll go through from here will have my opinion, but I think they have a big miss with that Elite. I think they could have draw it out a little bit and more, and maybe there's a business aspect that they didn't want to give them that promotion, but they lost money on that for sure.
For sure. All right, so we'll dive right into the card. The opener obviously was Jungle Boy facing off against Luchasaurus in a cage match, which I will give AEW credit. Especially lately, it may sound like I'm shitting on AEW, but to me, it's constructive criticism. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But to me, like I welcome criticism in my daily life, especially if it's
Me too.
that I take person and like that I care about. You know what I mean? Like if I'm like my job, for instance. You know, like I don't live for my job, but I take pride in my job. So if I'm doing something wrong or if I can be doing something better, I'm gonna know. So I think that's what everyone with the podcast nowadays, you know, that can properly hit record. Everyone has an opinion, right? So with that being said, the opener, and kind of getting back to my point, props to AEW for not having too many cage matches and not having really too many gimmick matches. Yes, they have maybe like a lot of. You want to say something?
I was gonna say, I noticed on the last podcast you said the last episode of Kick Ash was they haven't done too many cage matches, and I only went. I was. It's funny because full disclosure, I was in the shower when I was listening to you, so you guys listeners can visualize it how you want. But the only cage matches that I remember in the last 2 years was one of them. The first one was Cody Rhodes that you didn't mention, jumping off the cage, doing his suicide, right? And then you had the great Young Bucks and Lucha Bros. Mm-hmm. That was two. And then I think there was another. Wasn't there a women's cage match?
I meant to look it up after that. I should have.
Yeah, it's funny because I meant to like text you while I couldn't text you while I was in the shower because I had a different situation. But I was gonna be like, I gotta text Ashley real quick because I knew there was two other ones.
And maybe Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker.
That's the one. That's the one.
And that's when she won her fucking. God damn it! That's when she won her women's championship.
Yes.
In Texas.
See, I knew I had something there.
Yes, you were. Yes. Thank you. But yeah, so there and again, that's the whole point. Props to them. And granted, they are still a very young company. They've only been around for 3 years, so you know, and with the lack of not having pay-per-views every month, yes, but still, like caveats aside, they still very easily could have added so many more cage matches, and I think it kind of just intensified the cage match more. Between that and I'm just gonna kind of skip around here because, and full disclosure, guys, like if you listen to this, I don't do a hold by hold breakdown. I just kind of hit like the key points. If you want to hold by hold, I don't know why you're listening to me. Go check someone else out and just read it for yourself. But to me, hold by hold isn't necessarily what makes the match. It's the key points and what you remember. You know what I mean? And the things that I feel like really stands out. The cage match aside, the blood. And I know that's probably like, oh, well, AEW always has blood. Just look at Jon Moxley. To me, it's different because the contrast, yes, with WWE having no blood, and even with Triple H in charge now, we still haven't seen any that deliberate. But I think Jungle Boy, I think this was very pertinent for him, and I think this was very much needed for him because I think and this is going to sound weird, in this weird transition of him going from, and I've mentioned this before, but it's weird saying this to like, especially a man. He's going through like this transition from like a boy to a man.
Jack Perry.
Like, yeah, and it's weird for me, honestly, to call him Jungle Boy at this point.
Yeah, it is weird to hear it.
He even have the music to have the same gear. I just feel like he's a man now. Like he's grown so much in this storyline. I don't love it. Like I'm not like jumping over the moon and like waiting on my hand, like on my feet, watching and waiting for Jungle Boy. But I'm like, okay, like this dude's really showing something. You know what I mean? And I think yes, Christian Cage is the end game and the end monster, right? But he's gonna be out for another, I think, 6-8 months at this point. I think they went with the right direction, having Jungle Boy get the victory here. I think Luchasaurus was a fantastic opponent for him. I think the history there was obvious. Like I said on my last podcast, I'm very intrigued to see where both guys go from here, or both wrestlers, I should say. I'm not going to get too much into Luchasaurus right now because I think the focus obviously was on Jungle Boy, and of course that elbow drop from the top of the cage.
Oh, great! I have that in my notes. That was tremendous.
He didn't connect it all, but man, he got just enough of it, and I really like the dynamic of having his mother and sister at ringside as well.
Which they all look alike, which is crazy. They all got the long curly hair.
Right? Like it's insane. It's insane. Like
I love it.
Like I love
A
watching
great
it.
visual.
He has nothing on your luscious locks, Elvis, but
Hey,
dude,
thank
like,
you.
of course. And I think it was very interesting that Luchasaurus tapped out. I think that was a very interesting direction.
Yeah.
Of course, the table spot was with the elbow drop itself. I think they made a good decision with having Christian Cage ejected to kind of give Jungle Boy his moment to kind of win on his own. But yeah, I'll kind of turn it over to you. And obviously, the official winner of the match was Jungle Boy, Jack Perry. So yeah, what did you think of the match? And what did you think
So
of it being the opener?
yeah, I didn't mind it being the opener. The Cage, let us know right off the bat it was gonna be set the tone for the pay per view. Meaning this was one of the most personal bouts of the whole pay per view. Um, the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus thing has been intriguing to me because a few things. So last episode on your podcast, I like that you mentioned that this should be a transition from Luchasaurus to something else. And you were like, "Oh, I think he has an education in like medieval times." And it's funny because that same I was listening to that episode in the shower. Sorry to paint the visual again. Hey, maybe it gets more viewers if I say I was in the shower. Whatever your viewers listen to, but I was listening, so I was like, medieval times. That's kind of cool and kind of random, but like it. I think it's funny because Brie loves Luchasaurus only because it's like, wait, a dinosaur is a wrestler? She loves it, right? And she wants like a Luchasaurus helmet or a mask. But
I'm surprised they haven't made the masks. Now that you mention it, like they're
bro, why? Why?
Yeah, we should
Why?
wear masks.
This
So
is 2 years of not making merchandise. That's crazy that they haven't. But like the fact that, okay, so even more so. Create and they gave them like a Kane vibe music and a destruction. Don't get rid of the Luchasaurus vibe, but like give them another name, more personable, but keep that same kind of vibe. That'll be great because AEW doesn't have enough 7 foot, kind of guys that go over the top turnbuckle, when they step in the ring.
He moves like he's like a Jungle Boy size. Like
and it's funny because other than the gimmick of a dinosaur, I would love him. Going from Jungle Boy to Jack Perry, love that. I love the. So I think this is a match where they should become their own identity, separated. Before that, I didn't understand how they broke apart and then they came back together and then they broke apart again. I didn't like that. Which happened over the last 6 months. Like they broke apart.
I think that was because of Christian Cage to cut you off. I think
no, go ahead.
Not to not to excuse it, but I think they probably had to call an audible there, probably because of the Christian Cage.
It felt like an audible.
Yeah, and because I don't know, like I don't even know if Luchasaurus would have like if there would have been friction between the two if Christian didn't get hurt, but yeah, I think that's why not to. Well, yes, to cut you off.
Yeah.
To throw that in there for you.
So overall, love the rebrand. I hope Luchasaurus gets a rebrand. I love the Jack Perry. They're mentioning Jack Perry on. I'm looking at my notes right now. Love that they're mentioning Jack Perry. I love that JR's. He remembers that he's Jack Perry. So he's not saying. So the fact that JR says Jack Perry is a big deal.
Jack Perry, like it's so funny. Like, and again, I cut you off again. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like,
dude, I love it. I'm usually cutting off my other partner, so I love that you cut me off. Please.
All right, great. Yeah, I'm here for it. So, but it's funny because, and this isn't gonna be like a whole JR spiel, but JR was getting so much shit because he, would forget shit, call it WWE, like whatever, like all that shit behind the WWE champion Kenny Omega, right?
Crazy.
He named Jack Perry, like, well, he didn't.
Yeah, name him, multiple times.
He brought that onto the airwaves. He was the first one to say Jungle Boy Jack Perry. So, as JR gets a lot of shit.
He does
nowadays, and like dude's what in his 70s now. Dude has been through a shit ton of personal shit, like medical shit, like it's just insane. So, shout out to JR. Of course, he's
shout out.
But for him bringing that that Jack Perry name to life, because I feel like I was saying earlier, and like you were saying there, that is a gimme for him. Like he doesn't have to worry about what's my next character going to be. Like it
Yep.
was kind of handed to him on a platter, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's I love the little things of like Christian stealing the key from the referee. That was something
Mhm.
new. Got caught.
Great.
He's still in a sling. Got called back. And then they obviously after that it was a huge spot with Jack Perry, Jungle Boy jumping off the top of the ring, the cage, and then landing on Luchasaurus, making him tap. And it's like a the little boy that could, the small underdog, which is great. But I think they will miss the ball if they don't use this opportunity to change both characters. I think
Yeah.
Jungle Boy needs to become full time Jack Perry. Keep the same like kind of vibe. Don't like go from Jungle Boy all of a sudden to this new person that we don't recognize, but slowly transition. But you're calling him Jack Perry, and it's all about in wrestling, it's all about the announcers. The announcers dictate what we hear and what we see. So just call him Jack Perry more often than Jungle Boy. And then Luchasaurus, I think he could evolve to like a Kane type character. He could evolve to a dark, ominous character, and then we go from there. And then Christian comes back, he's healthy, and then we could move on. So I think those three characters evolved in a good way from this match, and I think if they do it right, everything is right in the world.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And two quick things before we move on to the next match. I want to just shout out Christian. And kind of eat some crow as well. I had jumped on the WWE podcast when Christian first debuted. This was before my own podcast. And I did a show with Mimi Burrows, and shout out her. Her and I,
Shout out Mimi.
yeah, like her and I talked AEW before like anyone else really wanted to talk AEW. It was really cool. And especially having another female voice, it was just really cool to have another female out there talking AEW specifically too. But I will take full credit, blame, whatever you want to call it, and say that I wasn't thrilled with Christian coming in. I thought that the hype that they put into him at the time was just extremely exasperated, and there was just and unfairly, the pressure is unfairly put on him, I should say, and I kind of didn't see it as a waste, but it was just like like what the fuck, like why, type of thing. But now seeing what this dude has done and this heel version of him and this just pompous just piece of shit, like I love it. I love it. I fucking love seeing him in the promos. And building up to whatever match, I would love seeing him come out in those fucking turtlenecks, dude. I don't know if you saw it, but he would come out in those turtlenecks. And
Yeah,
turtleneck.
pompous is the word. Like
And that's
he's a pompous prick, right?
God damn, like I just seeing him in that attire, I hated him.
That's when wrestlers do their best. When you see a motherfucker and you go, "What a pompous fucking prick," and you go, "Guess what, bro? You're doing your job." That's exactly what you should do. When Christian comes out with a sling and a turtleneck, and he's like being better than you, it's like, dude, you're doing exactly what you should do.
Yeah. And that was the early days of MJF. I fucking hated MJF. I was in there booing that piece of shit. If I ever saw like a Burberry scarf, like I would think of him and I would kind of like it would kind of like ruin like the next 5 minutes because it'd be like that piece of shit, you know what I mean? But it's just one of those things. So Christian, just shout out to him because I know in the past, if you've heard me talk about Christian, I probably shitted on him coming into AEW, but he's done amazing work since then. So I just had to put that out there if I haven't already. But real quick before we move on, this has always been a pet peeve of mine, and I want your opinion, and this is nothing important, it's just for me. The announcers talking during wrestlers' entrances. How do you feel about that? The commentators, I should say, rather. The commentators. Not the announcers, because obviously they do their announcing, blah, blah, blah. The commentators specifically. And before I let you speak, Jerry Lawler isn't... there's a lot to Jerry Lawler, right? The wrestler and then the individual himself. That's not the point. I'll never forget this. It was during WrestleMania 17. It was during the Gimmick Battle Royal. I don't know why it stuck out to, well, I do know why it stuck out to me, but it was completely irrelevant, probably to everyone else in the world except to me. JR was speaking, and I forget the wrestler coming out, but Jerry Lawler said, he said, "Shut up, JR. So and so is making their way to the ring." And it stood out to me because, yeah, not the JR, but just shut up in general, because the wrestlers making their way to the entrance ring, to me, should be a big deal. Yes, the ring announcer should say it's so and so coming from whatever, give their accolades. The commentators can say their spiel real quick, but once they start making their way, leaving the stage down the aisle to the ring, I feel like that's their moment. Whether they're a heel or a babyface, that's not your time as a commentator to promote the next card, to promote the main event. It's what, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds? Like, just shut up and let them make their way. I feel like it really accentuates their importance, because not every wrestler gets an entrance to begin with. Like, there's, quote, and I hate using this word, but jobbers, right? Like, people that you know are going to lose the match, that are already in the ring when we're coming back from commercial, right? So they don't get their entrance. So to me, I don't know, you brought up announcers, and it just kind of triggered that memory in my brain. So I just want your opinion. Am I just like thinking too much into it, or what do you think?
Like you are, I'm obsessed with entrances, and it goes back from a young age where I used to play, you know, wrestling games where you create your own character on whatever it is, whether it's what is it, Revenge, 2002, whatever the game was on Nintendo, and I used to be super into it, and I I will watch wrestlers' entrances just as much as their intros, because it is a point of emphasis into the match. Whether they do something new, it lets them know their character, and AEW does lack that of WWE. WWE does accentuate their entrances as much, whether it's talking over them or pyro or the better
Like that
aesthetics of it
CGI,
all.
like that shit, like with Roman Reigns, like it really adds to the entrance, and
Oh
I
my
don't know,
god,
it's just next
bro!
level. Like, I don't
That
know,
Roman Reigns, I don't even want to get into that because I could talk about that for an hour.
right?
It's immaculate. It's literally, that's the word, immaculate.
Yes.
And AEW doesn't do a good job of not only the entrance music, but also the loudness and the cadence of it all. If they do pyro, Britt Baker has a good entrance. There's a couple of people that I love their entrances in AEW, but I love a lot more entrances in WWE. Um, that's the side of AEW that hasn't picked up on the television wise, where they haven't learned that aspect of it. That'll come maybe with time. They're only 3 years into it. Maybe they'll see it and they'll learn it, but um, WWE dominates entrances. That's what they focus on. That's what they know that sells. Everybody loves to pay attention to a WWE entrance
Hmm.
over AEW. So,
Like a Karrion Cross, and then I promise we'll get to the next match.
oh, I love
Karrion
Katie.
Cross.
Oh, Cross. Woo.
Cross is not and if you guys listen to PW Torch, it's just the first one that sticks out to me. Uh, Wade Keller is not a fan of Karrion Cross at all, but because of whatever reasons, right? But it's the entrance that hits for him. It's and this is gonna sound crazy. It's, to me, the early days of The Undertaker, early debut of The Undertaker, early 90s. It was the entrance, it was the vibe, it was the aura that the character brought to you. And of course, Karen Cross is still light years away from that, but it's just the same concept, rather. So to me, it's just like, just stop, just give them their 10 seconds, just stop. Like, I
Yeah.
promise you, like, if the card is that important, I will do my due diligence myself to look up what's gonna happen on Dynamite in a couple of days. You know what I mean? So I don't
I'll
know.
be honest. I watched Karrion Cross, and I watched over the last month or so. I've watched his entrances per second more than his matches.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
captivating. Him and
Scarlett's a great
Scarlett.
thing to look
Scarlett,
at. And I tell Brie all the time, I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, you might hate me, but I like to look at her. But also, it's just like black and white. You got the crow in the background
Mhm.
flapping its wings. You got the thing. The moment it turns from black and white to color, it kind of dies down for me. But
Yeah.
guess what? At least you have me for those little bit, and that's
You're
what's important.
brought you in. You're there. You're not gonna
I'm
turn it
there.
down.
So
You're
by accident, I might watch a match by
the
his
whole
because
time.
his matches aren't exciting. I'll be
Exactly.
honest.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's why I'm saying like he's not like the fucking greatest wrestler in ring, but his entrance brings you in, and that's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
But
Uh
moving
huh.
on, and kind of maybe a not so great transition, but the build and the promos and bringing you in and getting you captivated brings us to our next match, which was the Elite facing off against Death Triangle for the Trios Championships. If you listen to my prediction show, you probably heard me say that I chose the Elite here, and I was surprised. I'm not gonna say I almost said pleasantly surprised with the ending and the ending sequence, I guess I should say. But before we get to that, we kind of already went through probably what maybe 85-90% of it, but like we were talking about earlier, I think that they really, really left a lot to be desired with the build and the return of the Elite. I will say that I'm holding out. I don't want to say, well, maybe not holding out hope, but I'm gonna give them a benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna wait for the follow up because I don't know. At some point throughout the rest of the show itself, that I don't know if you saw, they mentioned that the Elite and Death Triangle are gonna have a best of 7 series
I
going
did see
forward,
that.
which is insane. I don't really know how to feel about it right now because
Mm.
that's whatever. But yeah, I pegged the Elite to win here. I don't really know how I feel about Ray Phoenix, however you want to pronounce that F, depending on who you're talking to, hitting Kenny Omega with the hammer. If you've been watching Dynamite, that's kind of been Pac's go-to, hitting his opponent with the hammer to get the cheap victory. Phoenix has been, whenever he's received the hammer, kind of been throwing it off, saying he's pretty much not going to cheat to take the victory and he's going to do it the right way. Tonight he caved in. Tonight he hit Omega with the hammer and got the 1, 2, 3. But I think there was so much more to this match besides the moves. I think the match itself was kind of irrelevant. I think everything, the hype going into this, and then the finish, and then honestly the chance. The first thing that really, I mean, before I get to the match, the entrance. The entrance itself, the entrance music, did that stand out to you? The Carry On Wayward Song by
Yep.
Kansas? Like they're fucking fantastic. Like I again, props to AEW and Tony Khan for opening that checkbook because I don't know how much that shit is to rent the rights of, but
Oh, a lot of
Homeboy,
money.
yeah, Homeboy is not stingy when it comes to them coins and getting that entrance music. So and I love it because it fit the situation, right? Like it was kind of like eerie and ironic in a way, like the lyrics matching up to the situation. Um, Between that and Kenny Omega's tan, I don't know why that shit stood out to me, but I was like,
His
Kenny
tan is
Omega,
always on point. You got to give it
yeah,
to him.
like the second they got on the stage and like it came back to light, I was like, that motherfucker, look at that tan. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
He's always
bro.
got a great tan.
Yeah, like he was on point. Um, and there was a sign that said Omega's pet sitting and then it had a phone number. I don't know if you saw that during their entrance, but
I
shout out
didn't
to
see
that
it.
fan. Dude, it was great. It said Omega's pet sitting because obviously he was the one who saved Larry the dog,
That's
supposedly
funny.
during the brawl out. So that was fucking great. There's one quote I'm gonna save because that's gonna be my transition to you. But I thought
Mm-hmm.
the chants from the fans were pretty telling, especially being in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. It's not like they were in South Jersey where shit can get
I,
real. They were
I've
in
been
Newark.
there. I've been in that building before for other sporting events, so I know the vibe.
Yeah, so it's not like we're in Philly, we're in New York, we're in Newark, New Jersey, which can be
It
hit or
is
miss.
gritty. It's a nice medium because
Yeah.
the Garden and Philly, it's a great. Newark is a
Yes,
perfect medium.
yes, yes, dude. So it really depends. Like, I feel like if this was a WWE show, you would have got your friends and your family. Since this was AEW, you got your fucking diehards, you got your people coming down from up north, like ready to fucking like get their money's worth. So
Yep.
to me, it was very telling. At the beginning of the match, they were chanting "fuck CM Punk," like literally
Ooh.
chanting "fuck CM Punk." I don't know if you saw that. And when I first heard it, I was like, what are they saying? And I zoned into this one dude in the front, and he specifically, I read his lips, was saying, fuck
Yeah.
Punk. So I was like, okay, bet. Like, I see what y'all are saying now. So yeah, I think between that and I'm almost 100% certain I meant to check this out before we start the show here. I'm pretty confident, Elvis, they are going to be in Chicago on Dynamite this coming Wednesday.
Wow.
So and of course the match itself to me, I mean, I wrote down a few things. The release German suplex I've really grown to love that Kenny Omega does. Just the briskness of it and the quickness.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like I said, I didn't write down a lot of moves because to me it was the story, the going into this and the coming out of this match specifically. I said a lot of shit there, so I'm gonna turn it over to you. But especially with being in Chicago, my dude, and the fuck CM Punk chants, what do you think, man? What do you think? Start wherever you want.
Yeah, so the notes that I took real quick, so before I get to the entrance music, was the fact that the Young Bucks were all in white. I love because they're very, I'm into details. When I watch wrestling in general, I'm super into the details. And ring gear, entrance music, what you do on the way to the match means something. You're always trying to set a point. So the fact that the Young Bucks wore white, all white, no color, stood out to me. And if you're listening to this or watching it and you didn't realize it, go ahead and go watch it because it does mean something. They're a colorful pair of people. So when they came out, I was like, all right, they're about to go do their, bah, boom on the ramp. And they didn't do it until like later on the ramp. And they had no confetti. They didn't do it until they got to the ring. So I'm like watching extra. They were all in white. They didn't do confetti. And that tells me like, all right, we're almost what white to me represents in general is pure, new, kind of like a step forward. That's what I think of it.
Whenever I see a wrestler wearing all white, I immediately think of WrestleMania
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. Yes. So exactly.
Automatic. Yeah. Automatic. Ash, I'm so glad. I love that we didn't talk about this and we're on the same level. It's like when you wear all white, you're setting a tone. For a tag team that's all about color and you wear all white, that says something. So I wrote that down. The song, Kansas, Carry On My Way, son. Whatever. I looked at the lyrics because I want to be prepared for this. So it says, carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't cry no more. First verse, real quick. Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse and beyond this illusion. I was soaring even higher, ever higher. But I flew too high. Though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could think, I still was a madman. I hear the voices when I was dreaming. I could hear them say. So, like, you break those down, and it's important sometimes to hear lyrics in as dry as I just said it. Because it's like when you hear lyrics in a cadence, you're like, all right, carry on my way, and you jam out, right? But when you read the words as dry as I just said it, it means more. And that was a message. That's something WWE never does. First of all, they would never do that. Like, we're going to have the Young Bucks, the Elite, come back and, like, come out to another song. We're not going to do that. That's silly. Right. The fact that they chose that song and they paid for that song to send a message, and also they were singing it. The Young Bucks were singing that song the entire time.
And the fans were too. They kind of like, especially like with the main part of the song, like the chorus especially, like they were getting into it, They
were sending a message to AEW, to the fans, to CM Punk was, you're gone, we're here, we're moving on. And that was cool. I like that. And they were not shy of it. They knew what was going on, and that set the tone for the match overall. I have the notes I have here is Kenny Omega starts the match off. Great sequence after that with the tag team. Obviously, it's a spot fest. Anytime you have the Young Bucks, it's a spot fest, and they do a great job of super kicks, high flying, and
Especially Nick. Nick is just
Nick Jackson.
yes. There's always that one in the tag team. Nick is just fucking another level. Like this dude.
That's my favorite. He's my favorite. He might be my favorite, like AEW wrestler. Like he's just so weird and so awkward. Where it's like you're not even a wrestler, dude. You don't even look like one. And he plays wrestler, and I love it. Did you see him go outside and take a drink from the audience?
Yes, and I wrote that down because first of all,
I wrote it down too.
I don't know if you know, but real life.
He goes, "Is this diet?" He goes, "Is this diet?"
Well, because in the Young Bucks are like straight edge as well. Like they don't drink, they don't.
He goes, "Is this diet?"
Bro, like come on, my dude, like come on.
I love it.
Jackson, like
I didn't know they were straight edge. Are they?
yeah, they are. Like they're
Good for them. Not good for me, but good for them.
Yeah, shout out to them. It ain't me. But
Yeah.
shout out to them. You know, more power to you, my dude. But I feel like Nick Jackson is one of those dudes where, God forbid, if Matt was never a thing, he still would have been a successful wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't need
100%.
to be a wrestler. And I'm not saying Matt did either. There's just something about Nick that hits.
Nick is stand out more. He can be more weird, which is good. He can be more stand out.
Exactly. But yeah.
I love that. I wrote that down. I was like, Nick, I have it in my notes exactly. Nick Jackson takes a drink from the fan. And then I have off the top, Hurricane Rana. That was dope. That move. Yeah. And then the triple tombstone. That was cool.
Yes.
Spot fest, of course.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like I'm not giving kudos, but I'm like, all right, everything's a spot fest, so like, I have to consider everything is equal. But like that triple tombstone was pretty wild. But it's a spot fest. That's what you expect.
Yeah, dude, and like you just say like however long rant because the old person in me, like the old person like yelling at the kids to get off my lawn. That person is
get off my lawn.
Yep. Yeah, it's like a fucking like I think I flash back to Undertaker hitting the tombstone 1, 2, 3 done. Besides Shawn Michaels, like rare people kicked out of the fucking tombstone. It's just a whole other topic for a different day. But absolutely, and I loved before I turn it back over to you for any like final thoughts for this match. I loved the way it started and the way each wrestler got their own partner. So Kenny Omega started with Pac, and then we got Matt Jackson with I believe it was Penta, we got Nick Jackson with Phoenix, right? Phoenix, and then we got Matt Jackson with Penta. I love that it wasn't an intermix of anybody. I love that each wrestler got their own kind of partner to start off with. Once everyone got their kind of intro, they kind of just all meshed from there. To me, that just maybe they've done it in the past, but it wasn't anything big. But to me, it just kind of stood out. But I think the other thing that was really telling to, and like I kind of said from the beginning, I was really surprised that Ray hit Omega with the hammer. And Ray kind of took that route. And at first he was kind of, after the match was over, he was kind of thinking, he was kind of disappointed in himself. But then after Pac came over and after Penta came over and like handed him the title back, he was, my translation, he was kind of like, yeah, fuck this. We won the match. Like, let's go, boys.
Get it done.
We did this shit. Yeah, he was like, fuck it. You know what? Like, we won the match. So real quick, what do you think about the way they won the match? And what do you think about the best of 7 coming up?
I like the build up prior to Pac building up with the bell and ringing and hitting people, and that build up was good because I think prior to that he got the tool, I'll call it, and he said no, and they got the tool the second time, right? He got the tool the second time and was like, all right, well, I'm in this situation, and I like that because in any competitor, give me an advantage in a situation where I'm like, all right, if I don't use it, I'm going to lose.
Right.
and he was in that situation where I think he was on top of Kenny, right,
Yeah,
at the
Kenny was
time.
going for oh my god, I'm blanking on this finishing move. But he's going for his finishing move. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I don't know finishing moves in
I
AEW.
know why
Yeah,
I'm
we're
blanking on it, but
super
yeah.
noobs. But yeah, he was like,
The one
he
winged
got it.
angel. The one winged angel. He was going for the
There
one
you
winged
go.
angel. Yeah.
And he had it, and he was like, do I do it? Do I don't? Do I do it? I'm about to be finished. And if I don't
Yeah.
use it, I'm going to lose. I like that. And I
Exactly.
love that finish. Was like,
That's real. That's real. If
it's
my head is
real.
sitting on his shoulders and I'm thinking, fuck, I'm about to get hit with this one winged angel. I'm about to fucking lose this match. I'm about to lose my titles for not
I
getting
have
with
to
the
do
two
it.
other people. Fuck this, dude. I'm hitting you with the hammer. Let's go. You know?
I'm
So,
hitting you with the hammer. I'm doing it, even if I don't want to or need to. I still got to earn the dub. I still need to carry on his titles. No one's gonna know. So that was a very good moment where it's like, if you want a good guy to do something cheating, that's a perfect situation, because that was a second opportunity he had to do it, and he was like, do I do it, do I don't? And I like that. I like that a lot. Thought that was a great finish for what it was. And the typical thing would be the Elite comes in, they win. I like that they didn't win. That was nice. That was
they got
refreshing.
me. They got me. I put my money on
I
not
know.
the
I heard your report.
yeah, to be honest with you though, and then I'm gonna move on. I don't know how I feel about the best of seven. I think seven is too much unless we get some type of variation with the match or some type of stipulation match. Whether the first one is like a no DQ, false count anywhere, just something to break up the monotony of it.
I think it's a way to keep, if I'm thinking business, I think it's a way to keep the Elite on Rampage and Dynamite. It's a way to, like, because I think they're going to have a match on Dynamite and Rampage for the next 3 weeks. So it's going to keep people watching Dynamite and Rampage. You know what I mean? Like, business wise.
I think they actually released the schedule. I think it's just on Dynamite. I think
so that changes it. If they don't wrestle a couple of those on Rampage, then that changes the whole thing, because I understand why you might do that, just to draw an audience to Rampage. If the case is they're only wrestling on Dynamite, then that changes it.
Yeah, it is just the next essentially seven Dynamites going forward.
Oh, so that's when it's weird, because you would think you would use a few of those on Rampage just to get the viewers up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, I'm gonna have to get you back just to dissect AEW as a whole, because Rampage is another clusterfuck. And AEW is famous for throwing a lot of matches on a card.
I mean, there's a few matches here that we're about to do that we don't have to spend much time on. Let's be honest.
Yeah. That's a good point. I will say before I move on, then, like I was kind of starting to say, 7 to me is just a lot. I would have liked, first of all, maybe a best of 5. And then maybe some type of stipulation.
Agreed.
Maybe the first match is just a standard rematch, right? Like, maybe you can go with the Elite, whatever, the hammer thing, right? Like, they weren't obviously the hammer, so a standard rematch. And AEW, again, to their credit, they don't do many rematches in general, so I'll give you that. The second one, make it some type of stipulation, some even simple like a no DQ, some type of bullshit. Yes, I'm not a fan of interference or anything like that, but just something to change it up. Again, I'm gonna hold out type of criticism and see, because 7 is a lot. So hopefully they will throw some type of variation in there, but we'll see. Anything else you have on this matchup before we move on to the next on the card?
No, that's basically, I said everything I needed to on that one.
Good. Okay. So the next on the card, and I'm really intrigued to hear what you have to say on this and your build-up, or on the build-up, rather. Your thoughts on it was the Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose match. And first of all, there's a couple things. Again, I'm going to kind of throw everything at you at once. First, the build-up. The way we got to this match was Nyla Rose stealing the championship, the physical title, from Jade Cargill. AEW Rampage was in Jacksonville a couple weeks back, and I decided to take the trip last second. You know, I decided to
Nice.
drive 2 hours up there. Complete waste of my time, to be honest with you. I regret buying the ticket. I regret spending
Oh
gas
boy.
there and come back. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and I feel weird saying that about
Yeah,
AEW.
that's not like your character to ever like. Even if you felt that way, that's not in your character as far as I've known you to
Yeah,
ever at least admit it. Admit it. You know.
yeah, and to be honest, I was I wrote that down on my little notes here to kind of like go back and forth on if I was actually gonna bring it up. But yeah, dude, that's my real thoughts because and to me, I feel okay saying that because I spent my time and my money going up there. First of all, buying the ticket, and it wasn't that long of a drive, right? 2 hours, but still, like it's not around the corner either. It's not right here in Orlando. Uh,
Yep.
they didn't put much into the Rampage, and I bring that up specifically because the thing that actually made me buy my ticket was Jade Cargill. That Rampage it was the last Rampage and AEW show that's going to be in Florida for the remaining portion of 2022. So it's like, okay, well that's kind of intriguing, but not enough for me to actually spend money to buy a ticket. The thing that got me was the Acclaimed being there and Jade Cargill saying that because Nyla had exactly scissor. There's there's so many things I could say about that, but and the irony of so many things. But anyway,
Yep.
it's the Acclaimed and Jade Cargill that got me to, and specifically Jade that got me to buy my ticket because they had just started with the whole Nyla bullshit. She had just stolen the title, and Jade's whole point with that Rampage, she was like, I'm going to Rampage. I'm going to pretty much hold the show hostage until I get my title back. So I'm like, fucking bet, dude. Let's go. Like I maybe naively or whatever, and you can call me out on it. I bought into it. I was like, fucking bet, dude. Like this bitch is gonna go out there. She's gonna hijack the show. This is their last show in Florida. This is Daly's place. Like they have. There's a lot of sentiment to with AEW to that venue.
Yep.
This bitch comes out there. She does like it wasn't even at the beginning of the show. It was like halfway through it, and Rampage is
Sat
only
there.
maybe a half hour, or I'm sorry, maybe an hour, maybe 40 minutes once you cut out commercials. She comes out there, she sits in the ring for whatever, however long her segment was, and then she goes back. And not her specifically.
That
It
was
was
kind of weird. Where it's like I'm gonna hijack it, and then she just beat a couple people up. It was like, okay,
yeah,
that's it.
I think it was like
What?
security guards or some shit. Like she beat up security or some shit, and then she went to the back. You didn't hijack shit, dude. Like you hijacked your
No.
segment. Like you took up your minutes. Like that was it. And like again, not her specifically, because I'm sure like if what and I don't even know if Jade Cargill is her real name, but whatever the human being is, I'm sure if she had the autonomy to do what she wanted to do, she would have legit hijacked the show. I'm criticizing the booking.
100%. 100%.
And that's why I feel like, and that's why I said, like, yeah, I feel like I regretted going out there. I regretted driving 4 hours plus total, wasting my gas and these fucking crazy gas prices.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the ticket wasn't that expensive. I probably spent more on my gas than I did on the ticket.
100%.
And
Yep.
I'm gonna throw back to you after this rant, which I didn't really
I
intend.
love it. I love it.
You know me, man. But yeah, so that was kind of like the beginning and the genesis of this feud, kind of tying it back into it. And I just I'm not gonna hate on the whole idea of the feud is built on one person's like stealing possession of the title because I think it's not the most creative, but I think you can do something with it. They just didn't do shit with it. They just was like apparently Tony Khan said this was Tony Schiavone's idea in a media call yesterday or today, so he just passed all the blame or credit, whatever you want to phrase it as, to Tony Schiavone. He was like, "Yeah, this was Tony Schiavone's idea." Um, I think Nyla Rose I think Nyla Rose is like two beings in one. I feel like Nyla Rose the Beast is fucking
I mean, literally,
she
if you
could
want to get technically. Sorry.
she could be Nyla Rose the Beast. She could be the Crusher with her size. She could be the Nia Jax equivalent, but with a heavier edge. Or she's fucking entertaining as shit, dude. I don't know if you follow her on Twitter. That bitch is fucking hilarious, you know? Like
Yeah.
she cracks on people. She has memes like her as what I guess that's her as a human being. Like she's fucking funny. So I feel like they dropped the ball on this. I take it personally because I wasted some time and money on it.
Of course.
But the main points before the match itself. What did you think about the lowrider, them coming out on, which was obviously a callback to Eddie Guerrero,
Yeah,
obviously
of course.
Guerrero being in there. But I don't know if you noticed, but Vicky Guerrero was wearing the "I'm Your Mommy" T-shirt, which is the Rhea Ripley shirt, which is like a
Yep.
rip off of the
Yeah.
"I'm Your Poppy," right? And I thought that was so fucking fascinating for multiple reasons, right? It makes sense for Vicky Guerrero to wear it, right? But for it to either get approved by Tony Khan to be worn on AEW pay per view, knowing it's property of WWE. She
Yeah.
bought that shirt from WWE shop or was giving to her from a
Yeah.
WWE employee. And you know where it's from. If you like, if
Uh-huh.
I see that and I don't watch WWE and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I want that shirt, I'm gonna look
Yeah.
up it's from WWEshop.com. You know what I mean? So I think it's very interesting, and you don't know this, but I was on watching some review show a couple, like maybe a week or two back, and someone was talking about Dominic Mysterio and his build and everything. And I threw a comment in there, which I never really do, but I threw a comment in there and I was like, whenever I see Dominic kind of like mocking Eddie Guerrero, especially, I think of Vicky Guerrero and I just think of all the fucking possibilities and just the whole world that we could explore if Vicky Guerrero wasn't in AEW right now.
Yeah.
I think it was free and she was in WWE. Like,
Imagine.
dude, that's a whole other topic, but the shirt sparked that memory. And again, like, I mean, the match itself was fine. Not a lot stood out to me. The main thing that really stood out to me was Jade's selling, and Jade really was on the mat for a while. There's a portion in the match where Jade was just on the mat for probably like 2-3 minutes, and she just like oddly rolled over to make a penitent to Nyla Rose. I think it was just, I don't know, it was just very odd to me. But the fucking the beast bomb that she did to Nyla Rose, the power bomb essentially. Jade is a freak. Like, her strength is
Yep.
unreal. And of course, I don't think, to me, it was no question who was going to win the match. It was going to be Jade. But again, I threw a lot at you. What do you think about anything and everything?
No, I love it. So the Eddie Guerrero reference, I think he passed away 2-3 days ago. So
Yeah.
I think that was a big deal. I'm sure with the pay per view and she was involved, where it was like, hey, if we could give some sense and maybe bite the bullet, whether that was pay for whatever T-shirt or copyright, is way beyond both of us, and we can't think. But
Yeah,
I
it's like,
think that,
it was just really intriguing, you know? Because,
yeah, no,
and again, I'm sorry to cut you off, but again,
you're
I
good.
give AEW credit for that because WWE, maybe Triple H is different. I highly doubt they would allow an AEW sponsored and produced T-shirt or memorabilia on their screen.
I mean, if you're a business, you shouldn't allow it, no matter what, because when you, like, most people be like, oh, WWE should allow them to do that. Like, you have to understand, when you give an inch, they take a mile.
Exactly.
So, like, if you give AEW the ability to be like, sure, it's Eddie Guerrero week, just take whatever you want, they're gonna do that every time something comes up. So you can't allow it. So it's like, in business, it's like you can't allow people to do that because then they take advantage of you. So I understand that, but I think she wanted to show something in that realm of like Eddie Guerrero with the car and the entrance, which is great. They might have to pay WWE some money, and they probably should, right? But I love the gesture. I love the homage that they gave to Eddie, because he is a super fan favorite. But I love that they did, because it's getting close to the point where Jade is needing to be dethroned. I don't know how it's going to be, whether it's dominant fashion or somebody that like sneaks a title and then she gets on, because every wrestler needs a time off. She got dominated for the first like 2-3 minutes of this match, like nothing she has been through before. So it was good to see that. And then she won. Like her gimmick, she usually does gimmicks coming out like what was she, Tiger Cats or whatever cats she
Yeah,
was.
tonight I think it was like Thundercats.
Thundercats.
Yeah.
And then before she was like She-Hulk. So I like that. It keeps it fresh, keeps it relevant.
It's Star
But
feeling too.
yeah, overall for this match, it was let her get dominated for a little bit. Let her know that she's not perfect and super dominant. And then I think it's time within the next pay per view or so for her to be dethroned because you can only go so far with a gimmick, and she's about to be 40-0 or whatever the case may be. So it's time for her to be dethroned very soon.
Yeah, I think this actually made 41-0 for her, if I'm not mistaken, or some shit like that. So
Yeah, she's due.
yeah, she definitely is. And I don't know if they're waiting for Chris Statlander to come back. I think the build for Chris was kind of
Or a
building.
bigger one, Mercedes.
Dude,
Right?
yeah.
We won't even cover that. Let's wait for that to happen. Right?
Yeah,
We could go into that.
that's
Mercedes, if you guys don't know, you can just imagine
bro.
there would be a bigger situation that comes about that. Yeah.
That's a whole dude.
Yeah. Whole podcast.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, like I said, again, I'm not surprised that Jade retained here. I closing thoughts on this for me. I hope that they do something with Nyla going forward though. I think that you introduce this entertaining side of her in a weird way. So I think now, and again, it's not some big like grand swell from her or anything like that, but you could possibly build on it or go from there. So we'll see. But moving on from that match, we had the Ring of Honor Championship match. And I'm very intrigued on your thoughts with the whole Ring of Honor of it all as well. But of course, the Ring of Honor World Champion is Chris Jericho defending against Sammy Guevara, Bryan Danielson, and Claudio Castagnoli in a fatal four-way. This match, I didn't probably give it as much credit as I probably should have. I think it was a really good match. I think, especially Sammy, he created a lot of movement and a lot of spots in the match, and I think that the one thing I did note as well with his entrance that there was no Tay Conti coming out, and I think that was very telling as well. I think the whole turn for Sammy is when word was known that he and Tay were a thing. He started coming out with her. However you feel about that, one way or another, like people's personal lives is none of my business. I get, homeboy proposed to his fiance a year ago, and now all of a sudden he's married to Tay Conti.
Right. Says a lot, though. Says a lot about people.
Yeah, maybe it is my business since you proposed on Dynamite, and then now
kind of it makes your business. It kind of makes it your business.
Yeah. So I thought it was really telling that Tay was not there tonight at all. Didn't come out at all, unless I missed something. But she was not there. She was not a factor. I think there were a lot of moments in the match. The cutter from the top rope with Sammy was fantastic. Sammy, I think breaking up the pin and then the friction between Sammy and Chris Jericho, of course, was something to be expected. But I don't think that now is the time to pull the trigger on Sammy going back to a babyface. I think that it wasn't the reaction from the live crowd wasn't as strong as you probably would want it to be to pull the trigger on that. And maybe they were testing it tonight. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they knew that they weren't going to pull the trigger. I don't know. But I think the ending sequence or the ending few minutes, especially with the Spanish fly reversal into the cross face with Bryan, between Bryan and Sammy Guevara, I think that was just fucking fantastic. And seeing how good Bryan Danielson is, and Claudio as well. Claudio is just a freak of nature. His strength is just like inhuman. But just seeing it, maybe dropping the ball is a bit extreme, but just seeing how they haven't taken full advantage of Bryan Danielson and the star and the magnitude that Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan had coming into the company and what you still could have had at this point, especially with the departure of CM Punk. This could have been a no-brainer. Like, you could have easily transitioned from CM Punk into Bryan Danielson, and they just in my opinion, yeah, he started off strong going against Kenny Omega in the first Grand Slam, having great matches. But to me, it was just about Brian having good and fun matches, not about him being a centerpiece in the AEW as the company, as a company man. I could be completely wrong. And not saying that he didn't want to be, but it's very odd to me. Like, you had Daniel Bryan in WWE creating the Yes Move and being the ultimate underdog and being this multi-generational talent in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah.
He really took the void and filled the void rather for a lot of people. So yeah, I'm really surprised on the lack of follow-up really and lack of push with Brian. But I think the ending with Jericho kind of leaping over Claudio. Claudio had I believe it was I forget who was maybe it was Sammy and the swing. He leaped over Jericho leaped over and hit the Judas effect onto
Yep.
Claudio.
That was
And
dope.
he got the 1, 2, 3. That was yeah.
And then he did another Juice effect on him just to like. I
Exactly.
like that he did the second one to
Just to
make
nail
it
it.
emphasized because it was
Exactly.
like the one he did initially was like, all right, he did it, but it was like that
Maybe
should
it
be the
wasn't.
ending. And then
Yeah,
he did another one. I was like, all right, that should be the one.
exactly. So I don't think it's much of a surprise. I figured Jericho was going to retain here. What was your thoughts of the whole match and just Jericho retaining?
Yeah, I think you nailed it spot on from your breakdown. Adding Sammy into this match was great. From the spots that Sammy could do, not bringing out his significant other to make out was good. I don't know if obviously everything is well thought out, so it's like, hey, let's not bring her out so you don't make out with her and you're not a super heel. But I thought they would give the belt to Sammy in this bout. I thought they would. I like the dynamic they created with the both tag teams. It was almost like both crews. Like, all right, you're not gonna fuck it up for me on both sides. And then they had Claudio and Brian Danielson or Daniel Bryan, however, whatever the fuck you say. But I thought it was a good dynamic of having four people that two of them are on the same team each, and then they have to figure it out. I like that dynamic. It was cool. But overall, I thought it was a good quality match, and Jericho escapes doing what he does, and I'm not disappointed in the result. The only other result I thought would be that Sammy wins it. So
Yeah.
pretty simple for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think their focus is keeping the. I chose Jericho because they're still trying to get I really don't see like a weekly television deal for Ring of Honor. I mean, I see
Yeah.
maybe something on YouTube.
Last episode you
Um,
said that. It was like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like I get it that Ring of Honor is with AEW, but like we gotta separate it at one point. We
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
like
And
can't keep this going.
I'm getting to the point where I'm struggling between, is it really that big of a deal? Am I
Yep.
just like really just complaining just to complain, or is it really taking away from other AEW talent? Because we don't even know what AEW talent is going to go over to Ring of Honor, so that's a whole
Sure.
other topic for or another
Good
day.
point.
But yeah, I'm ready to be done. I'm ready for separation. I'm ready for less titles. I'm ready for all that shit. So
Same.
next matchup we had was Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, facing off against the debuting, returning Saraya. Yes, DMD. Of course,
Don't say
formerly known as
say it right. Saraya, not Saraya.
Saraya, not Saraya. And the way I remember it is Aya, like A.
Yeah, to me it's simple.
Yeah,
Saraya.
yeah,
Just
Saraya.
Ray. Just say Saraya. I can't believe these people are like having like that. It's their job that they can't say it right. It's
And like,
crazy to me.
yeah, and like it's that, like they're really stuck. Is it Saraya? Saraya?
Right? Like
Like,
professionals that's their job is to say the right name. I
yeah,
could
and
say
like
it easily.
to me,
Saraya.
and they kind of like downplayed, like, oh, what tomato? It's like, I don't know.
No.
To me, it's like, no, it's a fucking name. Like, it's not
No,
that
it's
hard.
important. It's
You
very
know,
important.
if it was a dude's name, would you be like, oh, tomato? It's like, I don't, probably not, dude.
Ooh,
Probably not.
controversy.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
not a big deal, but it is. If it's not a big deal unless you make it a big deal. So
100%.
to
Saraya.
me, Soraya, exactly. To me, the first thing that stood out was Soraya's entrance. They really harped on her brother being at ringside as well. Um,
Mm.
And to me, it was just a culmination of showing the brother being ringside, having her boyfriend, regardless of how you feel about Ronnie Radke, whatever bands he's been in, him as a human being, the fact that he sang the song for her entrance theme. So you have that playing her to the ring. You have her brother making his way, like the Pinky, shout out UK, making his way to UK, being front row for her return. And just obviously the emotional aspect of itself, her being gone for 5 years, and really when you think about it, it's probably longer than that. She had obviously the one match that put her back on the shelf. Before that, I think it was a combination of maybe 6.5 years before she was like regularly wrestling like on a weekly basis. Um, yeah, there's a lot that I can talk shit about. The confusing promos between the two of them, who I'm supposed to cheer for as a good guy, bad guy. Um,
Yeah.
the one promo with Saraya and Britt in the ring, Saraya was all over the place. She was saying how she was returning and is pretty much like celebrating her return, and then pretty much like shitting on Britt, saying like AEW, like y'all are pretty much like the minor leagues, essentially. She
Yeah.
didn't say that word for word, obviously, but to me, it's like if you don't respect of all people, regardless who the champion is, if you don't respect Dr. Britt Baker, like the face of the women's division, yes, DMD, what the fuck are you doing here? Like honestly, like what are you doing in AEW? Like if you're not
Yeah.
here, if you don't respect, if your character, I'm sure you as a human being, but if your character doesn't respect Britt Baker of all people, what are you doing here, dude? Like really, like honestly, like that would legit be a question to from me to her, like as her character, as a character, like what are you doing? Like if you don't
Mm-hmm.
respect that, why did you sign here? Like who are
Yep.
you coming to face against? Britt is the face of the division, whether you like it or not. Whether she's the champion or not, and to me it was just a very strange way to go about it. I wasn't a fan of, I think that was like 2 weeks ago. I fucking loved Britt's response promo this past week. Yes, it was more in a babyface light, and I think that's an AEW problem, not a Brit problem or a Saraya problem. I think
Mm-hmm.
AEW or Tony Khan, whoever, Tony Khan says everything. He's the Vince McMahon, right? It starts and ends with him. So my dude, like, you need to really decide if you want Saraya to be your babyface or if you want
Yep.
Britt Baker to be your babyface. And I think that was a huge miss going into this. I think, yes, let them say what they want to say, but you have to give them bullet points. You have to give them direction. You have to say, Saraya, you need to hit this, this, and this. I don't care what the fuck you say, but this is where we're going. So Britt can respond by saying this, this, and this, so she can still be a piece of shit heel, and you can be the
Yep.
guy making your triumphant return
Yeah.
regardless, or if you
I
want to
agree.
that, or if you want Saraya to be the WWE intruder, like making her coming in to shit on AEW and saying all
Yep.
bitches are shit, like I came here to get a quick check and to make, just pretty much just cake on out from here.
I
Uh,
agree.
then cool, but make it known. So for me going into this, I don't, to be honest, I think I chose Saraya, but once I saw Dr. Britt Baker's promo on Wednesday, I was like, I don't even fucking care. Like, I wouldn't be wrong. Like, I want Britt to win. Like, it didn't change my mind that Saraya was gonna win, but I don't. I feel like they took a hard left when they could have just stayed straight and just been
Yep.
super simple with this. It's literally handed to you on a platter. She's making her return. Britt's the heel. Say less for Saraya. Just say you're happy to be back. You're cleared. You're 100%. It's bad news for the doctor, Britt Baker. Have at it. So that's where I'm
DMD.
at. DMD.
Every time I hear Dr. Ray Baker, I have to say
I
DMD.
feel like I'm a fraud if I don't
It's like
say
I
yeah.
know. I'm like trained to see it and hear it.
Yeah.
But no, great. Another great breakdown of a match. My notes was in the beginning. I liked that they milked the injury a little bit. Like, oh, she has a back problem, a neck
Mhm.
problem. Like, milk it a little bit. Ease it into it, and then Soraya had a way of showing her non-rust, doing a bunch of moves. Obviously you want to show that that person isn't rusty. She's back. She's not going to wrestle more than 2 or 3 pay-per-views. She's not going to be on Dynamite. She's not probably going to be on Rampage. So she's a, you call it the Brock Lesnar. You call it like 2 to 3, maybe 4 matches a year. And it's funny because I think about her, and I didn't watch her in my reign of watching wrestling, but I learned about her professionally and not professionally. Like, if you want to say off the record, if we're being transparent, I learned about her. So, like, I didn't
You did independent research of her.
I did independent research of her, yes. But, like, at the end of the day, it's like she shouldn't be given, I'll be honest, after everything I researched about her, she shouldn't be somebody she shouldn't be treated like a CM Punk, like a Brock Lesnar. And I feel like she's going to be, and I don't think she deserves it. Yeah, she has a cool story, WWE, but, like, is she a really good wrestler? No. Is she a really good name in wrestling? No. To me, I know her for more off the field than on the field. And I'm just being honest. I'm being brutally honest. Like, it doesn't pay off for me. Like, she's cool to bring back. She's cool to whatever. But I hope they're not paying her a lot of money because it doesn't make any sense. Because
they're paying her probably like at least.
Yeah, of course. And for me, that, like I said, I could only speak for myself, that didn't watch her while she was in her hottest in the Divas era, but know about her out of the ring. And then it's like, I'm not watching a pay-per-view or watching anything moving forward for her. So, cool. She picked up a win. I love Britt Baker. I love her visual. I love everything about Britt Baker. So we need to build her back up, and then we'll go into her in a little bit. But I value Britt Baker in the short term and the long term way more than Saraya, for sure.
I agree. And I was actually really kind of surprised by the ending. There was 2 rampages is what she's calling her finishing move. And
that's what she's calling it?
Yeah, it's Rampage.
Jeez.
Rampage, or that's what the commentators called it last week when she got her first like offensive move in.
Doesn't matter. I think it's gonna be irrelevant. Like, she's what's hot right now. Honestly, I'm not trying to be a negative or a downer. No. She's not even midterm. She's gone. Like, after this, if we don't see her, I guarantee we might not see her ever again after this. Let's be honest.
I think, yeah, man. I'm not at that point yet. I think the follow up with her is gonna be very critical. I think she has a chance of being the next Toni Storm, where you thought she was important coming in, and you had this perception coming in, and she quickly faded off.
I enjoy Toni Storm visually. She doesn't have enough personality for me. Sorry.
And I feel like
we're going into it, but like,
yeah.
I love Toni Storm. Visually, like, I'm a dude, so I'm going to be like as blunt as I can. I love looking at Toni Storm. On the mat, off the mat, whatever, but like, I enjoy female wrestling a lot. And it's like, she doesn't do it for me, promos or in the ring. I enjoy looking at her. I enjoy like I said, some people might not like this, but like, and I enjoy looking at her and what she wears. But like, that's as much as she's getting from me. It's like, I'm sorry, that's where I stand.
But that's
battle against me. Disagree with me. It's fine.
That, in a way, it's to be expected coming from a dude. You know what I mean? Because a lot of dudes come into women's wrestling with the perspective of it's an appearance thing, and it's, I'm going to relate to a Trish Stratus or to someone who's visually.
Oh, I'm definitely not being all in with Trish Stratus. I'm trying, like Sasha Banks. I love for looks, but like, she could fucking deliver.
Yeah, and
So it's
that's
like
yeah,
it's balanced. So like
yeah,
you gotta give me if you give me the looks, I have to respect you with the other side too. So
for
I don't
sure.
want to sound all sexist with what I'm saying
Yeah,
is some female wrestlers do it one way more than the other. Some do it both ways, and yeah,
yeah.
I
It's
just
no,
not
and I
sold on
don't,
others.
and I don't think you're that dude. I just think that you are probably not the best example because you're not that dude, but I think you're a good like entry point because I think that that's a glimpse into what your
Yeah.
stereotypical dude would
Mm-hmm.
watch a women's wrestling match for. They want to see the visually appearing female in there in the grand scheme of it, especially America. It's your blonde hair, blue eyes female who's in there doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Certain attributes and certain features are accentuated. You know what I mean?
Of
So
course,
yeah, so of course that's
it's
a lot of
normal.
yeah, of course, dude, and likewise with a lot of women out there too. A lot of women fans, for instance, Roman Reigns back in the day. The only reason women were cheering in the fans for Roman Reigns is because they thought he was attractive. They weren't
Yeah.
cheering because they thought he was a great
Shit,
wrestler. They thought
I'm a dude and I love women and I'm attracted to Roman Reigns.
he's
I'll
a
tell her. So just like I just said one way, I'll be like, hey, dude,
exactly.
Roman Reigns, I'm attracted to. Like just
That's,
like the other way.
that's the heads and the tails. That's
Yeah.
exactly the point, though. It's like but that's why wrestling is what it is, and that's why wrestling
Mm-hmm.
isn't like your football or basketball, where you're watching that because you want to see how well these athletes play, whether it's male or
Yep.
female in their respective field, whether it's WNBA or the NBA. You want to see them go out there and fucking ball. Whereas wrestling, you want to see them wrestle well in the ring, but you need to get connected to them. And a lot of times, it's just the
100%.
like judging a book by its cover. You're gonna be drawn to what you visually see first, and then you're gonna kind of develop that connection thereafter. So, I think with Britt and Saraya, the follow up, especially with Saraya getting the victory here, the follow up is going to be key because you already muddied the waters. Where I went into this not knowing as a fan if Britt was the good guy or if Saraya was the good guy. You know what I mean? Saraya picked
Yeah.
up the victory, but she didn't really celebrate with us as the fan.
Good
As
point.
a fan, she got the quick victory. She said, "Hey, how you doing?" She went out there and dapped it up and hugged her brother, which of course she would. You know, whatever, but she made her way to the back. Like she didn't congratulate Britt. She didn't thank
Mm-hmm.
Britt for the match. She
I was
didn't
waiting
respect
for that
Britt
too.
for the house. Yeah, Britt and I was waiting for it too because Britt was still in the ring, like
Yeah.
on the outside, and Saraya
I
was
wonder if they were supposed to. Maybe they didn't. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you don't
yeah.
know what
It
happened
was
behind the
very
scenes.
strange. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not
Kind
gonna
of
read
weird.
into it because I don't know shit, but it was just very strange to me. Very strange. She just really pretty much did her business, said, "Hey, what's up, bro? I'll see you probably in a little bit." Made her way to the back, maybe dapped up a few fans, and called it a day. We did see Britt later on in the match. But yeah, so we'll move on here just to keep the pace rolling. But it was very interesting to say the least. But the next matchup we had was Powerhouse Hobbs facing off against Wardlow and Samoa Joe for the TNT World Champ. Well, I don't. Do they call it World Championship? I don't know if it's a World Championship. I guess.
TNT.
Yeah, they TNT, but sometimes they say T like
Do they say world?
sometimes they throw World in there. I don't know. I could be making that up, but
Mm-hmm.
to me, this match, I don't really know. Again, I will take whatever. I will eat crow, I guess is what they say. I got
Mm.
this wrong. I predicted that Wardlow was gonna retain here. I was very surprised to see that Joe picked up the victory here and ended up getting the choke out victory. I didn't really like the ending sequence though, to be honest with you. I didn't like how Wardlow hit essentially the powerbomb symphony
Yep.
onto Powerhouse Hobbs. Got what maybe
Yep.
3 or 4 power bombs in there. Took one shot to the back from the championship title and then was just laying mere feet, not even from Joe, who took
Yeah.
Hobbs in less than a minute. So I didn't like that. The match itself was okay. I don't know. I was kind of expecting a little bit more out of this. I'm not probably gonna spend too much time on this one. I am
Same.
surprised that Joe won. I will say that. I think it sets up their final battle pay per view that Ring of Honor is having. I think in December. I don't know, maybe December 10th. I think that maybe sounds right. Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of let down by the ending. What about you? Oh, I will say though, Wardlow had a what
Look
is
at what I wrote.
eh?
Eh.
Yeah,
That's literally all my notes. Look, Samoa Joe, Wardlow. For the
yeah,
people that are watching, it just says
that's so great.
eh.
Eh,
Like
yeah,
that's all the notes I had because that's all it was. It was
yeah,
like eh. Like
eh,
it was like okay, cool. It was a filler match. Samoa Joe has 2 titles. I don't have anything to say about it other than what I wrote. I watched it, tried to take notes, and I was just like at the end of it, I was like, all right, let me think back on it. I was like, whatever, move on.
I like it. I will give Wardlow props for his Whisper in the Wind. I think he must have been a fucking huge Jeff Hardy fan growing up because he hits the Swanton Bomb and then tonight he hits
Nice.
the Whisper in the
He
Wind.
did do Swanton bombs. I give
That's
that
like
to a
his
big
thing.
guy.
Like, yeah, he's Wardlow is something else. I feel like they have kind of dropped the ball on him. That's why I was surprised that they took the title off of him. But yeah, I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, and we'll keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Same.
We're good. All right. So after that, this was one of the rare backstage segments that we got. I only wrote this down because I wanted to take maybe possibly a minute to shit on Jake Hager. I have a unhealthy disdain for Jake Hager, and I don't know why. It's just I think he's completely useless. I may regret saying this, listening back on it. I don't see the point in him. Segment I'm referring to is when Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends were backstage with, I believe it was Tony Schiavone. They were saying whatever. Essentially, the whole point of it was to set up the All Atlantic Championship match versus Orange Cassidy facing off against Jake Hager. Jake Hager said that he pretty much likes the championship as much as he likes his purple bucket hat. If you listened to me on the WWE podcast back in the day with Mimi, I can't stand Jake Hager. Dude doesn't do shit. He really doesn't. He probably has had maybe less than 2 handfuls of matches since he's been with AEW. I don't dislike him as a person because I don't know him as a person, obviously, but that's why I call it an unhealthy disdain for him. But yeah, dude, you don't really have to say much about it. Do you have any thoughts on Orange Cassidy versus Jake Hager?
No.
Okay.
I'll keep it simple. Overall, just one of those filler matches where love Orange Cassidy for the gimmick he does, and he's great. I definitely pay attention to him and the Best Friends and all that, but no. Jake Hager, the only relevancy that he has is when he partners up with Chris Jericho,
Right.
and
Exactly.
that's the limit. I think that's what he does. That's all he is. So I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Sounds great. I don't either. Moving on to the
Good.
next match, we have Double J, Jeff Jarrett, teaming up with Jay Lethal, facing off against Sting and Darby Allin. This match,
Another one that we shouldn't spend too much time on.
yeah, I'm gonna hit a couple things really quick. I was,
Mm-hmm.
me personally, I'm not a Jeff Jarrett hater. I'm not a lover of him. I'm kind of neutral. I see what he can do for the business behind the scenes. I don't think he needs that much time on the TV screen. I will say I love his entrance music. The first, however, like the first notes of his entrance, I love. I love.
Yeah.
So I will always enjoy hearing him come out. After that, it's really just that. Like I was surprised there was no Karen Angle. I was kind of maybe expecting his wife Karen Angle to make an appearance here, but no go, which I'm good with. I was surprised to hear some TNA chants during the match itself during the beginning. That was pretty interesting. It's always funny that people chant TNA but they don't actually watch the product. But whatever, I don't care that much about TNA to really make a fight for them one way or the other. This match really was just kind of a filler for me. This match didn't really need to be on the card. I think
Yep. Shouldn't have been on the card.
I think this was an excuse to get Darby Allin on the card and Sting.
Yeah.
I don't see Jeff Jarrett doing much after this. I kind of was expecting Darby to turn on Sting and to kind of like after the match was over when they were kind of just hovering in the turnbuckle area. They obviously didn't. I think the guitar shot to Darby Allin when he was doing the coffin drop was pretty interesting to see. Other than that, dude, I feel like it's pretty much the same Sting and Darby Allin match we've seen. There's no rules apparently. Yeah.
They need to break up. It's kind of getting old. I get it. I
like-
get why they're together. I get why overall, but like it's the same old shit. You're just doing the same thing gimmick with other people, and it's like you've been doing it for 2 years. Get over it. Move on.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so moving on. We have Jamie Hayter versus.
Here we go.
Here we go. Here we go.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. First of all, I will comment on Jamie Hayter's gear. I thought it looked fantastic. She did a wonderful job, and shout out to whoever created that gear. You did.
Shout out whoever created Jamie Hayter. How about that?
Yes, your parents did a fantastic job.
Great job.
Beautiful job. Anyway, I again was wrong on this one, and I'm happy to be wrong on this one. Well, yes and no.
I was right on this one. I didn't do a prediction show, but if I had one, it'd be like if you don't give it to Jamie Hayter, I don't like how they went about it, but I needed the result, and I'm glad I got the result.
I'm happy with the result as well. I'm happy that Jamie Hayter picked up the victory here. My main gripes, first of all, it's still the interim quote-unquote championship. I think, yes, props to you, Tony Khan.
Yeah, how long do you have to go to interim? Jesus Christ.
Thank you, dude. I think, yes, again, props to Tony Khan for wanting to give Thunder Rosa the opportunity to recover and come back. However, I think there needs to be a cap. I think there needs to be a 2-month cap. I think if your champion cannot return within 2 months, I think interim is not a possibility.
She could get the first entry or second entry in that cap, like after. 100%.
She is the number one contender for the champion, regardless of who the champion is. It doesn't matter if it's Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. It doesn't matter who the fuck the champion is. It doesn't matter if there's a vacant champion. She gets the first shot. So I think I fucking hate the interim anything. I think if you're going to do it, fine, but you need to have stipulations for it. I have bitched about the rankings in the past. I'm not going to do that right now, but I think it's gearing the whole interim bullshit is kind of gearing into the rankings clusterfuck, and there's no guidelines, there's no rules, there's no cutoff. Like I hear Thunder Rosa on Busted Open, like every week, but like I don't hear any update from her on AEW TV.
Yeah.
I think that's a big disconnect. I think if you're champion, if someone is injured, whether it's your champion or Hangman Adam Page, that we saw physically get injured on Dynamite in the main event for an AEW championship, and you don't follow up on the injury, at least to be like, yo, Adam Page got injured last week. He's doing okay now, but he's going to take some time off. I don't need to know X, Y, and Z. I just need you to follow up the next week and be like, yo, homeboy got hurt last week. He's okay, but he's going to take some time off. Same thing with Thunder Rosa. Look, homegirl is injured. She's our champion. We're going to give her some time off. Tony Storm is our interim champion. We're going to give her 2 months. If Thunder Rosa doesn't come back within 2 months, she can't.
I agree.
Thunder Rosa or whoever is the champion within a 2-month time frame, that's our champion moving forward. Interim is off. She's our full-blown champion. Thunder Rosa can challenge when she comes back. Keep it moving. It's just it's beating a dead horse at this point. And I like Thunder Rosa. I think she's a good wrestler. I think she can do a lot for the company. I think she could be a good coach for the women's wrestlers. I just think everything else is a waste. I feel like this match itself, Jamie Hayter versus Tony Storm, could have been much more significant if the interim stipulation wasn't there. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I just think it's kind of irrelevant, and that's why I didn't predict a title change here, because I feel like if you have the interim crutch, what's the difference? Like, what's the point? Like, why even do a title change? Like, she's not the actual champion. She's still just a placeholder. So, like, why even pull the trigger? So,
that's the rock to me.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. And we did see Britt Baker come in. Of course, first we saw Reba, whatever you want to call her, not her real name, Rebel, like whatever she's going by. She came from, I think it was underneath the ring or some shit. Too much interference. I think too much interference. If you're going to pull the trigger and you want Jamie Hayter to be your champion,
good point.
Pull the trigger. Be confident in it. She has the fans support. She has the momentum. You put her in this position to begin with. Fucking pull the trigger. You don't do this with your men's situations. Like, yes, you had William Regal interfere, and we'll obviously get to that. you didn't have fucking 5 guys interfering in your main event. So
Yep.
that's my soapbox. I'm getting off. I'm passing it to you.
Pass me the rock. This is how I feel. First of all, Jamie Hayter's been building up so much momentum for weeks and months. When she comes out, she gets more of a pop than Britt Baker now.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
it's obvious. You watch Dynamite, you watch Rampage, whatever it is. She's been building up so much pop. And once you hear a pop as a production, you need to go, all right, we need to figure something out. Because if someone's getting a pop, first of all, like I said, I'm a man. I see with my eyes. I give Hater, I give a pop for a lot of things, and I enjoy watching her. I'm sorry, hey, that's what wrestling is. You know, there's girls that watch John Cena because he's good looking.
Like women, just because we aren't as vocal, like I don't know, like I'm not the best person to be in that situation, but
yeah, you kind of like, but
I'm with you, but like, there's plenty of fucking like straight females out there who are like, they see John Cena, they see Roman Reigns.
That's what I mean.
That's the only reason they're there.
I pop for Roman Reigns the same way the girls pop for Roman Reigns. Like, I'm like, damn, that's a good looking dude.
And that's the misconception that I hate. It's that just because you being a male, you are drawn into a Tony Storm Jamie Hayter match for a while.
I'm sorry, but I'm watching something and I go, ooh, I like that Jamie Hayter. Like, I'm sorry, I'm attracted to her. Like, but that's what has to be in the algorithm or the equation of how to make somebody pop.
That's with every show too.
Hello, it's visual, right? Are we not watching with our eyes?
Right.
So Jamie Hayter's been on my radar for a while now, at least a year now, but even more so because I'm not gonna only watch with my eyes or what I'm attracted to. I'm also gonna watch as a wrestling fan, like what she could do. If she was a trash wrestler, I wouldn't. All right, cool. I can look at her and then like, so be it. But no, it's a mix for me. Over the last year, I've been watching her because I enjoy what I see, but also I enjoy what I see on the wrestling ring and when she comes out, what she does, whether it's the showboating, whether it's like what she does in the ring, or even, dude, even when she's not wrestling, what she does on the side of the ring. So it's a lot. I've become a Jamie Hayter fan for every reason why you should be: visual, wrestling, promo, everything. So going into this match, if AEW didn't reward her with the new interim, whatever, I was going to be disappointed. The moment she won, I was outside smoking a cigar. I celebrated. I was like, let's fucking go. Like, to be honest, Toni Storm, visually, she's the same thing. See, now that I said that about Hayter, I love to watch Toni Storm visually. I think she has a great body. I think she's hot. I think she's whatever. But guess what? Promo-wise, everything else, she doesn't do it for me. So, like, I say one thing, and now I'm not being hypocritical. I'm saying one person, they both have visual for me as a man. But then I'm like, all right, promo-wise, they don't do it for me. One has better promos than the other. And that's where I want to root for them. So Jamie Hayter has the visual, the promo, the heel, I want to root for her. Toni Storm didn't have that for me. She had the pop in the beginning, and then after that, it died down. Like, she really wasn't doing it. She was given the title, I think, because she was new. And she was exciting and all that, but like, I love Jamie Hayter being a champion. I love it because, hey, I get to see her more. But she also proves it to me because I think she has a character and the ability to keep it going for weeks and months, which I don't think Toni Storm had. I'm proud of her. I love it. I'm glad since I've been watching AEW, I'm glad I was able to like seek her out on my own self and be like, I like her. and then it evolved into this. So props to JB Hater for real.
Yeah, dude. I couldn't agree with you
Sorry,
more.
got too like manly on the podcast, but I'm like,
No,
hey,
no, that's what I
sometimes you
love.
see things and you're just like, damn, I can't avoid
Yeah.
it, you know?
No, that's the contrast that I need, you know? Like I the only thing that I would have changed is just the amount of interference that we had. I
Yeah,
think
I didn't like that. I didn't like the one point. Not, I'm gonna cut you off this time. I wrote it down in my thing. It was like, if you want to give her the title, I get that she's a heel, but like you don't have to make two to three separate incidences where you gave her the title. I thought she deserved it without the interference. One would have been cool. Two would have been all right. Now you're like two or three. It's like too much. So I thought she deserved it without interference.
yeah,
One I would have accepted. They went a little bit too much with the two or three times that she got interference. So I don't like that.
yeah. And last point before I move on, I think that like piggybacking off of what you said, I think I would have cut the Reba part out of it. I would have just had the Dr. Britt Baker DMD interference because I think that was more crucial than anything else. I think that yes, Britt just went through this catastrophic loss earlier in the night, but she is still there for her friends. She's still a diehard. She
Yeah.
is still true to her word. She went into this believing in Jamie Hayter, and she was there for her friend. Yeah, she took an L literally earlier in the night, but she's
Yeah.
here for her friend. So I think take Reba out of the picture. You don't need her. Have Britt do whatever she's gonna do. Interfere. Have Jamie win and keep it moving.
Even after that, I was waiting for her to turn on her too. I was waiting for like a super
I
kick.
was too. I was
Let's
too.
be
But
honest.
I'm happy they didn't. I'm happy they didn't.
Okay. All right. Good. Me too.
But moving on, we had the next matchup on the card before we get to the main event, which was the tag team championship match. The, of course, champions going into the match is the Acclaimed facing off against Swerve Strickland, aka Sneaky Swerve, and Keith
Nah.
Lee. Uh, I it may be obvious my opinion of the Acclaimed, but I before we get to the match itself, I am dying to know your true feelings of the Acclaimed and them being the tag team champions before we get to the match. And
Yeah.
the daddy ass and the sizzling.
No. I love the gimmick. I'm not big on gimmicks and like, oh, you keep up with whatever's going on because people love it. But like, I think they have a niche to what people like, and I think it's appropriate. I think they hit something, and with the yo, and it's funny because the first time I saw it, like everybody else, when you know, the rapping, you think of John Cena and coming out rapping. It's a biter, right?
Right,
In
right.
the hip hop world, but he's doing it in his own way, and then you learn more about their tag team, where the other tag team opponent is gay, real. And then you're like, oh shit, that changes the dynamic of how you think about this tag team
Yeah.
partners. Yeah, it's like, okay, like he's literally gay and he's showing it, and it's like, damn, now I like respect this tag team even more because not only are they saying how they feel, they're unashamed, they're true to who they are, they're wearing pink, they're doing the scissor thing, which obviously started off as the Acclaim, and then they were like, all right, we could do this, and like everything about the Acclaimed I love. And for me, that only knew about the Acclaimed probably 8 months ago, I watch it every single month. It built to what I loved, and when they took the tag team champions away from Swerve and fucking whoever you want to call, what is it, Bear Claw Lee? Who is he? Yeah, whatever he's called, because WWE fumbled that bag real quick.
Really did.
But like, it was like they should have took him in one pay per view and then they took him away. What was it? Did they do the titles away in Queens? or in
Yeah,
Long
so the
Island.
Acclaimed won the tag team championships at Grand Slam.
Yeah, and it was perfectly well done. I thought they should have won the previous
All
one
out.
pay per view. Yeah, and then they did it after, and it was well because the audience was behind them, and they were hot, and they're still hot. They're still
Yeah,
hot.
yeah,
I love them. I love them. They're entertaining. When they come on a promo and I'm like fast forwarding them, I stop. I watch
yeah.
everything they're a part of. And that's how I know that they're a part of something bigger, where it's like every promo, every entrance, you want to watch them, and that's important. And yeah, Swerve Strickland, and they should go on their separate ways. They should be individual wrestlers.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the track that we're leading down at this point. Couple quick points that I wrote down. I love that we got 2 verses from Max tonight. During his
Yeah, I
interview.
like that too. I like that too.
One. And he was like,
That was
"Yo, I have
awesome.
another one." I was like, "Okay, bro, go
He's
for
like,
it."
okay,
Yeah,
listen.
legit Max. Yeah. So I love that we got 2 verse Max. I wrote that down. Legit 2 verse Max. Um, I think it
Two
was very
verse max. I like that.
yeah. I thought it was interesting that commentary specifically made a note that Anthony Bowens had a shoulder injury going into the match itself, and that they had saw him in the hotel leading up to the or to the pay per view itself in a sling. Little things
I
like
like
that
that.
I enjoy. I feel like if you're going to throw little tidbits in there and you're going to interrupt their entrance, make it beneficial and make it actually mean something and have some type of weight for the match itself. So I appreciated that. I was pretty much expecting this to be the downfall for the worst wrestling name in history, Swerve in Our Glory. I think that it was about time that Keith Lee
By the
kind of
way, AEW's got to stop with trying like War Joe and all that. Like they need to stop. Like stop trying to make everything make sense.
part of me is
Sorry.
wondering if they're trying to be like cool like in on the
No,
how
they
bad
are
it
trying to
is
be cool.
joke.
They are trying to be cool. They're trying to be way too cool. Like
It's not.
not everything needs a name, bruh.
Yeah, dude, just fucking chill. Like, and the whole like, so like,
Ugh.
I forget who brought it up originally, but Swerve Strickland's entrance, his whole song is "I swerve when I drive," and to me, that's kind of fucking dangerous. Like, what are you swerving? Like, bro, like if you're
If
swerving,
you want to break it down, right?
the legit lyrics are "I swerve when I drive," unless like I heard it wrong.
Intoxicated, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
so I'm
not a
like,
smart move.
right, so I'm like, bro, like, am I supposed to be happy for you that you're swerving when you're driving? Like,
Yeah, it's
um,
funny because you bring that up, and I'm like not super like keen to breaking down things and like being like,
but
oh,
so like
like
if you hear
don't
from the
take that
song,
literal, but like that's a point where it's like I never thought about it. It's like
man,
you might want to just change that lyric up a little
so
bit.
I bring it up because I think this heel version of Swerve is cool, and I love this. I love that him and Keith Lee are breaking the fuck up. I wanted them to break up. I wanted the
Needed
Acclaim
to
to
be.
retain. Yeah, I wanted this to be the end. I'm happy with everything that happened in the match. Again, we're not gonna break it down. But my point with bringing that up is like I want to dislike Swerve and like I want to be like, okay, like this makes sense. But like hearing his song, like I'm like, that's a pretty cool song. But then when I listen to the lyrics, I'm like, all right, dude, so like you're swerving when you drive. So it's like, and that's the main thing that I hear it like on repeat is like swerve when I drive, unless there's something else to it. So again, maybe that's just like my brain or whatever. But I don't know, like between that and then the way the match ended, I think it's obvious that Swerve is the bad guy. Keith is the
Yeah,
good guy going
of
forward. I
course.
think that's the
He
direct.
walked off. He walked off. He let
Yeah,
him
and good
alone
for
in
him.
the ring. Yeah.
To me, at first, I was like, dude, you're walking out on a championship match. But then it's like, if I'm part of a tag team champions, like champion team, like I don't want to be partnered with someone that I don't like. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And be a champion. So
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. So that was the last thoughts that I had on that. Anything else before we get to the main event?
No, let's get main event is what I came here for.
Yes, sir. So pretty much needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give it a little bit because, of course, that's what we're here for. I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts going into this, who you wanted to win, what you thought, of course, of the ending itself. To me, I thought it was pretty
Obvious.
what they were probably going to do if they're going to
Yeah.
like that route. And
Yep.
that with especially when we saw William Regal making his way with Mox, because Mox never comes out with anyone.
I didn't see that part being obvious.
Which part? The
The Regal passing
okay.
what he
See,
did. You know, I don't want to spoil her until we get to it.
no, it's not spoiler because I'm about to say this shit right now.
Yeah.
To me, it
Okay.
was no spoiler because to me, the second back however many weeks ago, the second
Mm-hmm.
Max said he was not going to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring to Regal, I was like, of course you're not, because you're going to use
You
the
said it. Did you say the other episode? You were like, all right, he's gonna use brass knuckles,
I
right? You
think I
said it.
did. I think I did. If not,
I
I definitely thought about
I
it
only
because
listen to you when it comes to AEW, so maybe
I
it was you.
if I didn't actually say it, I know I thought about it because the second I was watching Max's promo with William Regal, and he said he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring, if they weren't going to go with Babyface Max, which I didn't want them to do, if they're going to stick with the bad guy Max and going with the devil, the villain, all that bullshit, yeah, of course he's not going to use the Diamond Ring, and he didn't. He didn't. He had
No.
it out. William Regal was like, pretty much like, "Yo, motherfucker, don't do that shit." So
Yeah,
he's
he
like,
said
"Okay,
don't
bet,
do
dude."
it.
He's like, "Okay, bet, dude. I won't." Threw that shit out, and it was kind of funny. You saw the security guy go to find the
Yeah.
ring. That shit's actual. That's how you know that shit's actual diamonds. You know that
Yeah,
shit's no fake.
for sure.
He went to find that shit real quick. um, but the second that happened, I'm like, okay, just it's just a matter of time. And between Max saying that a couple weeks ago and seeing William Regal make his way out with Mox, he never comes out with Mox.
Yeah,
He never comes out
true.
with Mox, especially through the fans. I could be forgetting something, but I don't recall the last time I saw William Regal make his way, especially with Mox. If anything, he'll come out with Brian Danielson, but he'll go to the commentator's desk and he'll talk on commentary. He never goes down to the ring. So between that, him actually being down at the ring, the brass knucks, I thought it was pretty much a telltale sign. Um, I thought the main thing too, I did make a note that I loved Moxley's pants, his red pants.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just they really stood out. But the chants, the audience that was in attendance, and again, it's Newark, New Jersey. It's not Philadelphia. It's not New York, Brooklyn.
But it's also a little
But again,
riled up. Yeah.
exactly. Like I said earlier, like you mentioned earlier, you can get one or two fans. You can get
Yep.
the WWE family. Oh, I'm happy to be here type shit.
No, but New York, New Jersey, you get the people that want to come because you got to think about it. You got New York City, like where I'm from. Like I'm from Staten Island, New York, so it's like we're in the middle. If I'm from New York, that's the only ability I have to go to an AEW opportunity. I'm gonna act crazy. So you got Newark, New Jersey, probably is the best fan. So because you got Philly, you got New Jersey, you got New York, all coming in one. That is dangerous. So like we had one of the best fans for this pay per view, probably of all time.
That's true. Speaking of them, though, the reason I brought them up is because their reaction. So they had a variety of chants throughout the night. A couple of them were new champ, specifically new champ chants. They were booing John Moxley. They were chanting MJF. I was very surprised by that. I was very surprised with the support that Maxwell got. MJF, whatever. There was actually a specific "fuck you, Mox" chant as well at one point.
Okay.
So that really stood out to me, obviously. I did love the fact, though, as well, that John Moxley kind of played into it, though. The second when they were chanting "fuck you, Mox," he kind of flicked off the fans and kind of played into it, and he was pretty much like, he actually said, like, "I love this. Like, give me more." So that kind of stood out to me. I love that Maxwell, even though he's kind of teetering on the babyface heel version, kind of borderline, whatever, he still won't do a dive on the outside of the ring. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that stood out to you or not. When Moxley was on the outside, I'm like, oh, is he actually going to do like a suicide dive to the out? Fuck no. He just literally ran the ropes back and forth like maybe 2 or 3 times and then just stayed in the ring. I love that because less is more with him, and it's psychology. So I love that. The ending though, I don't know. There's a lot of ref bumps. I don't know how you feel about that. The ending sequence was the Bulldog choke to MJF, and then of course we got the reversal, and then MJF got the brass knuckles from William Regal, hit the brass knuckles, and then ended up getting the 1-2-3 on Jon Moxley, and is our new AEW World Champion going forward. He did his brief celebration. To me, it wasn't really that climactic as I expected it to be. Maybe I'm off, and maybe if
AEW doesn't do a good job, and I wanted to say this a few times, was out of all the matches that I see on a pay-per-view versus WWE, they don't do a good job of building up the ending, right?
No.
Like, they have a lot of spots, they have a lot of things that go on, but there's a lot of times where I watch AEW and I'm like, oh, that's the ending. Oh, okay, that was the end spot. Where WWE, I'm not saying it's predictable. I'm just saying, like, you kind of know and you build it up where you're like, oh, this is it. 1, 2, 3. And that's exciting. For AEW, sometimes you're watching, you're like, okay, cool. Oh, that's dope. And you're like, 1, 2, oh, shit, it's the end. Okay.
Right. And that's
weird.
That's how the Britt Baker Saraya match ended.
Yeah, for me too. I was like, oh, it ended. Okay,
there
cool.
was one fan that was sitting like almost dead center. Like when Saraya got the 3, he was like he legit when we're like, what?
Yeah, it's
like,
not the result. It's more about like, oh, I didn't expect that to be the ending.
So I think predictable isn't always bad. Sometimes you want predictable so you can get the reaction.
Sometimes you do. I'm telling you, bro. When I have people, the only reason why I say that, bro, is because when I have people in my house that never watch wrestling, and we just watched Logan Paul and whatever we watched at the last pay-per-view, we're watching it, and like sometimes it's like, oh shit, 1, 2, oh, kick out, but then the next one is 1, 2, 3, and it's like, oh, it's like when I watch AEW, sometimes I'm watching, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't realize that was the ending, and then it's kind of like weird because it's like, oh, cool. Like I thought the last 3 times was 1, 2, 3, but the real 1, 2, 3, I didn't. I'm like, I don't feel emotional about.
Exactly.
So that's where WWE has it. They know how to produce a 3 count.
Absolutely. So, with that being said,
MJF, bitch.
Let's
go. Let's go.
What do you think about MJF? What do you think is the future going forward for him? Are you happy with this decision? What's next?
Very happy on the decision. I think he's gonna reign. This is gonna be at least a year-long reign, and he's great for the company, great for the industry, great for the business, and this is something that every single week, every single Dynamite, every single Rampage, I'm gonna tune in because I don't want to miss a promo. I don't want to miss a vignette. I don't want to miss any type of. If he's not, it's like Roman Reigns. He might not be in the building, but you also don't want to miss if somebody else might mention his name. You know what I mean? In a video. So, it came perfect timing. CM Punk is out. Kenny Omega just came back. So, he's building it. MJF is the biggest thing in AEW. Roman Reigns, MJF. Like this. Mm-hmm. They're like this. They're like this, literally. But they're like this when you talk wrestling.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And one last question for you before we sign off. Do you think, since you compared them, do you think MJF has signed an extension with AEW? Or do you think he's out of AEW in 2024 and headed to WWE?
So, if to bring another sports reference, 2 sport references, Lamar Jackson right now in 2022 is in a contract year. Aaron Judge is in a contract year. He just said no to the Yankees. He could have signed for 200 and something million prior to this year. What did Aaron Judge go do? Won the MVP. Had one of the best seasons of all time. Guess what? He's about to sign one of the biggest deals. Whoever signs him, it's most likely the Yankees. He's about to sign. Lamar Jackson, same thing. He could have signed a deal that was less or what he was equaled. He said, I'm going to go out there, and Lamar Jackson's. I think MJF is the equivalent of those two athletes where MJF knows his value. He understands the industry, and he goes,
Or
I'm
even
going to
Odell
go.
Beckham.
Odell Beckham, different situation, and he's going to go sign to somebody else right this year, too, because he just got off he's injured, but he's also a guy that could kind of build up. MJF understands that. And if he's smart, which I know he is, he's from Long Island. Like, if you're from Long Island, you understand the value of a dollar.
Yes.
This man understands that, hey, I'm putting out the best quality I could put out, and people want more. Why would I sign for the first deal? Why would I sign for the second deal? Hold it out, be healthy, be smart. Man, this guy's about to make, he's about to be 24, 25, 26. He's going to do well. That's all. And we're all going to benefit from it. Either way, that's the awesome thing about wrestling is when it's all done right, myself, Ashley, we're going to benefit from it. So we just sit back and relax and we just watch it. We're just like, hey, let the negotiations begin because we're going to benefit. We're going to watch the best MJF and we're going to watch the best Aaron Judge in two different atmospheres.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is the entire card itself. Is there anything else, any other thoughts that you want to bring up? Any predictions? Anything else that we didn't touch on before we sign out?
No. Enter the Lab, Elvis Escobar, Fort Sama, YouTube, all that. But hopefully we have Kick-Ass Podcast has myself on again where we can review. There's a lot going on in the wrestling industry. Logan Paul, Roman Reigns. We got Survivor Series. We got Royal Rumble. There's a lot going on in the realm of wrestling, and I'm so excited for what we got going on. So much content. Definitely listen to everything that Kick-Ass Podcast is putting out because she puts it in perspective. She doesn't put any unbiased opinions, and she just spits straight facts, and I love it. So every time I listen to Kick-Ass Podcast, I love it. So definitely tune in, subscribe to her.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I don't know what you're doing if you're not listening to Enter the Lab. This isn't any like bullshit or blowing smoke. I talk about you during like my regular shows as well. Like I go to you for everything, especially like a sports recap for you said like unbiased reactions and just everything in general. And like you said, like I love the dynamic between you and Forrest. So I truly appreciate you coming on here very last minute. So thank you so much.
Yeah. To let you guys know, currently as we send it off, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. Just to let you guys know. So Kick Ash and Ashley Mann is about to put this episode out for you guys. Probably ASAP, most likely first thing in the morning, and we're ending this recording at 3 a.m.
Yeah, motherfuckers, yeah, and I gotta work tomorrow. So it's gonna get done before I go to sleep. So yeah, with that being said, Elvis Escobar, I truly appreciate you, my dude. You will absolutely be back on, and hopefully, depending on my schedule for Survivor Series, depending on when we can record, maybe if not directly after Survivor Series, because WWE likes to do Sunday shows and Saturday seems to be working better for me personally, but we'll definitely link up with you so we can get you back on. But thank you so much, my friend.
Elvis Escobar out.
Yes, sir. Peace, my friend.
Peace.